Is there an intro for this?
You just did it. You just gave us that intro, my friend.
There we go.
Yeah.
Is this edited?
Oh, no, this is all going to be one long take, and I'm hoping neither of us says anything that
It's just going to be me talking then. That's how this always happens. All right.
You definitely have a lot. I think you have a lot more to say about certain things than I would.
Yeah.
This is not a great podcast. This is my good friend Doug. He shot and edited my music video and co-produced my EP, and we have a lot of great conversations. At least I think we do. Man, I don't know.
Yeah. I have great long conversations where I just talk at you. That's pretty much how it goes. But all right, let's do it now.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, we were talking earlier. Art versus content, are they, plucked from the same tree? Or are they completely different entities in and of themselves? Like, where does art end and content begin in that way?
Okay, so I think this starts with you have to define each one, right? I would say, I don't know. It's like, I don't have a degree or anything, but this is how I would define art, right? I would say art is expression and it's the process, right? So like, something is artful because it has like a perspective. So like, you make a movie and you have an idea of like, this is what I want the movie to say, or this is how I want it to feel, right? Like it just comes from your brain. And then the process of how you make that is also whether or not it's art, right? So like, if I have somebody write a bunch of different phrases on, what's it called? With the balls and the thing? Bingo? They're like, put on bingo balls and I just draw them out of a thing and I just randomly decide like how, like make that randomly dictate. That might not necessarily be what I would consider art. It's like an experiment maybe, but like it's not as artful as here's my idea and then here's the process I've designed for executing that idea, right? And as a tangent already, but like 30 seconds in, but I would say like this is why to me like AI or like generative art can't really be art because there's no process to it. You know what I mean? It's just like accumulating data and then remixing it. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing artful in that. If there is no process, like every piece of art should have the most steps possible, I think, right? So it's like if you want to paint like a big picture, there should be nothing in those steps that makes you paint less. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it shouldn't be like, oh, like all the blue is already there, so I just have to paint the green and the red, right? You know what I mean? Or it's like, oh, it's like already divided up like this, so all I have to do is this. Like the more steps you take away, the less artful it is to me, right?
Right.
And then so that's where I think that's where you draw the line between content and art, because content to me is something that you can do every single day, right? And so by nature you're trying to take away certain steps because it needs to be repetitive, and I would say typically it doesn't really have a perspective either. Like I'm trying to even think of like what's like an actual example I can think of as content. I mean, I feel like we see it all the time on TikTok,
As an example, like people doing food reviews or something like that, just like something as simple as that. Like,
yeah.
Is that as artistic as someone like Guy Fieri or any of those guys going out into the world, making a whole show? Not only making a whole show, but a whole production of it, breaking it down into specific, like any of those shows where it's someone going out to different restaurants. There's always like multiple different restaurants. They have very like specific things that they, as experienced people in food and in culinary, they have all sorts. They're gonna have all sorts of things to say as opposed to just some random person.
Right.
It's the fact that its content is so in the moment and very quick. Like, just to go off of what you were saying, does the amount of production you put into it determine whether it's actually an artistic achievement or just some kind of, like, to me, content is churned out so mindlessly and so quickly that I agree completely with what you're saying as far as if it's so quickly, if you get to the end product or the end result very quickly, there's no way that it's going to have the same amount of thought or effort. It's to me, it's the effort.
But I think I think we're basically saying the same thing with different words. I think for me, it's that I feel like it gets to me tricky if you start saying like I don't know, like effort's I guess like a fine word, but it's like it could also be like art could be anything, right? I feel like it's about your intention or like your perspective and then how you do it. Like I really think that's all it is, because like somebody like Anthony Bourdain, I wouldn't necessarily call him like a food reviewer, but I think you could argue that what he did was way more artful than somebody sitting in their car on YouTube and, you know, eating takeaway or whatever, right? Like, but that's not to say that sitting in your car eating takeaway can't also be artful. I think it's just a matter of like, if that's what you're going to do, then what is your take on it? What is your intention? Like, what is your perspective? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are you saying by doing that? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, are you sitting in your car and eating takeaway as like a commentary on something? You know what I mean? Is it like a counterculture thing, or you know what I mean? Like, all that matters is like the context of it, and then it has to be the process. See this all the time too with people that like shooting things on their phone. It's like if you are only shooting it on your phone and editing it on your phone as a means to an end, then you're taking all of the art out of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're not like giving yourself opportunity to stumble upon something new. You know what I mean? It's like if I generated a bunch of notes in the same scale, like, and just had a computer like generate a pattern, like I'm not writing a song. Like technically a song comes out of it, but there's no art being made there. You're just like, oh, I need background music, and then you hit a little button and it comes out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's like either can be the other one. It's just a matter of like what that process is, if that makes sense. You know?
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, just the term art.
Yeah.
And how vague and how broad of a term.
Actually, you know what? This is exactly how... This is the whole thing... I know we talked about this like a bajillion times. This is exactly what Scorsese was trying to say by saying that Marvel movies are not cinema, because it's exactly the same conversation. Is that...
He said they're theme park movies.
Yeah, they're theme park rides, right? And it's because like a theme park ride can be art. It is art in and of it, in its own like bubble, but he's basically saying that we need a distinction between this type of thing that's intentional and purposeful and specific in the medium of film, and then a movie that is just supposed to be a thrill and it doesn't really say or do anything. You know what I mean? Like
outside of the lore of whatever that like,
or just that like
the universe of that is. Yeah.
You watch, I know there's like a popular like visual effects artist react thing on YouTube, you know, and they'll look at like some terrible movie, like an awful movie from like the 80s or 90s, right? But they
Flashdance or something.
Yeah, exactly. No, but like they'll watch some movie and it's like some junk movie that's trash and it's stupid, but there's like this one scene that has like this really like the visual effects artists that worked on it were like really innovative, creative, thinking outside the box, like experimental, and they came up with something that's like so convincing, so perfect. It's like it's an amazing effect, right? And like that doesn't exist in Marvel movies. You know what I mean? It is such like a pipeline that like these movies just get made. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that distinction of the intention of what it is, like nobody's trying to innovate on a Marvel movie. Like it's just supposed to be made to get done, to get released.
Well, you know? And the only innovation in it is how can we make action sequences less repetitive? Like how do we like the only thing I think of when I watch those kinds of movies is it's trying to like go outside of this. Some of them try to think outside the box, but to me, the very fact that it's a Marvel movie and a Marvel production or whatever is kind of never going to be outside of that box. Like it's as much as they can try to like create some sort of originality.
I don't know that they're even that concerned about it, and that's not like
maybe not.
That's not even like to say that it's good or bad. Like I think Marvel movies are just as valuable to the scope of filmmaking and movies as much. Like blockbusters are just as valuable as tiny art house films. Like we need the whole spectrum, you know. And that's not to like say like you shouldn't watch Marvel movies or anything, or like they're doing a disservice. I just think that there's a distinction to be made between something that is like you just can't call like if I hand painted some sprawling landscape, right? And then I say like it's South Florida refrigeration and it's a billboard, that is just not the same thing as if I painted like a giant huge canvas painting to put in a gallery. Like the medium's the same, like my skill set is the same, but the intention is so different. Like you just cannot call them the same thing.
Right.
Like you just can't call like, you know, movies that are made for like $250 million that like you could watch any other action movie. Like you could even compare them to other big blockbuster movies like John Wick and stuff like that, where it's like you could just see that they were trying to like, at least on John Wick movies, they're trying to like reach a peak at something, right? They're aiming for like something so specific, and the intention is right there, and it's all about serving that, you know? Everybody shares that clip. I think it's from Winter Soldier, when I don't know, like Bucky and somebody else is fighting. I can't remember who's fighting. Maybe Captain America. They're fighting, and they're like there's this really cool thing where he like drops the knife and like catches it, you know? Like he goes to like stab him, he drops it and catches it or whatever. And like the behind the scenes is actually so much cooler than how it is in the actual movie, because in the behind the scenes you actually like just see the whole thing, you know? Like you get to actually see like, oh, they practiced this and like they just did it for real. Or an even better example actually is, I think it's Mission Impossible Fallout. Like Tom Cruise and a cameraman
on the plane
jumped out of a plane to do skydiving, right? And they did but they stitched 3 takes together and made it all stormy, right? So it's like the art of the process of it was like diminished, right? Their process was so good and their intention was so good, but they like clouded the whole thing. I don't even know, I can't even wrap my head around why that decision was made. But like,
as far as the way it's edited?
Because it's like you did 3 really good takes. Like it's basically, I think there's like the beginning part, and then I don't know, like lightning strikes or something, and that's like a different take. There's like a bunch of like hidden cuts in there, or like 2 or 3 hidden cuts or whatever. But it's like you did everything, and then you put all this like stuff on top of it to cover it up, you know? And that to me is just a mindset. And I know like Tom Cruise like really likes to show off that type of stuff, so I don't know why he did that in that specific instance. But like, if it was really about the art of it, like say the art of the stunt or the filmmaking or whatever, you would do everything in your power to not cover that stuff up. You want it to look as real and like, or you not to look as real, but like you want what is real to be there the most. You know what I mean? So I feel like
you want to put a spotlight on the thing that's making it exciting, the thing that's like worth watching.
Exactly.
You want to call it.
So I think like Marvel movies don't necessarily have an interest in that, and I think that just makes them different, right? It's more about starting a conversation so people can like theorize online, and people can get kind of wrapped up in the whole continuity of everything, and actors from this movie showing up in this movie. Like that's what makes them fun. You know what I mean?
I mean, as much as I don't care for the story, you can't really argue that they do have a specific approach and have put so much time and energy into the multiverse aspect of it making sense. That in and of itself feels like that's what the story is serving, is for the multiverse to just make sense at all. And that is, to me, the most artistic part of it, as much as I kind of hate it because it's created this like.
But I think that's what makes it a theme park, right? Which I think is fine. Like riding the hype of these movies and getting excited to see them, even if like Like, I don't think I've ever rewatched any Marvel movie after I've
Neither
seen
have I,
it in
no,
the theater.
Yeah.
But like that doesn't matter. I think that's the thing too, is that people want everything that they love to exist on like a higher plane, but not everything has to exist on that. You know what I mean? Like,
True. No,
there are movies that I love to death that are like some of my favorite movies that are actually, I would say, bad movies.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
I would honestly
yeah.
call them bad movies. Like, not even like they get a, you know, they're not as bad because of this, and this. Like, they're just bad movies, you know? But that's separate from how much I love them. You know what I mean?
Same. Like, something could be total bullshit, and the fact that it's filling that like category or taking up that, you know, filling that spot
right.
in the world of cinema, like that's, I mean, I think movies like, you know, Freddy Got Fingered is fucking hysterical. Like, it's because it's so opposite.
You know, Freddy Got Fingered is on the Criterion channel. Like,
are you serious?
Yes.
No fucking way.
I don't know.
No way.
I don't know if there's actually a Criterion copy of it that exists, but it is streaming on there.
Oh my god. See that, and why I like Tom Green, or I'm a big fan of anybody that's like opposite, anti-humor, counterculture kind of thing in that way. I could also say the same thing about like Harmony Korine, but like Tom Green is so interesting because of how he is like created his own. I like anybody that creates like their own category of films, or they're just their own category in anything artistic. Like, Andy Warhol is up there in that way. Harmony Korine to me is such a genius artist, but his art like kind of sucks. Like, he is a great, like, when you listen to him talk about filmmaking or you hear him talk about movies, he like gets it and he knows exactly what he wants. It's just like his execution is so opposite of what we're conditioned to seeing in movies. And that's where even one of his breakout movie, Kids, he didn't direct that. You know, Larry Clark directed that. So I would, like, he's just a fascinating kind of person to me, because I think his artistic approach to these things is really interesting, and then the end result is just very confusing and weird and bizarre, and that's a double-edged sword for him, because it's I hate it and love it at the same time. You know, I see a movie like Gummo, or even like, to bring it to more modern topic of conversation, The Spring Breakers is like one of these movies that you feel like it should be a lot better than it is, and it's not. It's like such an average average kind of like bad movie, and yet at the same time there's something artistic in it that I admire. The sequence of all those like high frames per second shots with the cover of the Britney Spears song, like that's like the best part of the movie. It's basically, if you look at it, and it's like, do you have to approach certain movies like that in a different lens? Like, if you look at it as one long music video instead of a movie, it might be a little more watchable. But what I mean by all this is, like, you can have all of these like ingredients and have like the right way of approaching something, and then it's like sometimes people just don't execute it the right, like the way that they.
But I also think that like getting hung up on like good or bad, or like, you know, whatever, it's like, it's the like good and bad doesn't exist. You know what I mean? Because I would say people like Harmony Korine, like they deserve careers just as much as like Spielberg deserves a career. You know what I mean? Because they do have a unique perspective and an artistic approach to how they do things. Like, and their goal is to make the art of filmmaking. Whether or not anybody likes it or not is like pretty irrelevant. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I guess, as far as like selling tickets and whatever, sure, but that's like a whole other, that's like a separate issue. You know what I mean? I just think that there's, like, just to go back to the art versus content thing, I think that's just where it boils down, is that nobody like Harmony Korine is, there's no Harmony Korine of TikTok. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
or like,
exactly.
Or even like of YouTube. Like, maybe they exist somewhere on YouTube, but it's like lost just in the noise. You know what I mean? And I don't even think those platforms, like, I don't even think they allow that in a way. You know, like that kind of approach is not something that somebody, unless the goal of the art project is to be repetitive and be constant, like, unless that is the goal, you know, that a platform like TikTok or Instagram will never facilitate like that level of experimentation. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
and well, you see it yet at the same time. If you look at like my feed on Instagram, for example, it's a lot of that like nonsensical like bullshit, because that's a whole thing that's popular nowadays as well, as the memes that don't make sense, and they're like, if anything, just like feeding this the absurdity of meme culture and stuff like that. That's like what I see a lot on my, just as far as like that does kind of exist in these platforms. It's just not, I think it's not going to be as popular, and they're on like very like obscure channels, or on very obscure pages that no one really, like Puberty and whatever those guys, black what are they called, fucking Grape Juice Boys, like all those very popular meme pages. You'll never see that on those kind of thing, because it's just too confusing. Like people what's funny about that stuff is no one really likes something that doesn't make sense or is confusing in any way. So like the experimentation.
But I also think that people don't really like. Another reason to make the distinction between like say art and content is because nobody really watches content. Like nobody legitimately consumes content. You see so much of it, but nobody, like, people will buy like a Blu-ray of art. I don't know, like, if somebody released a Blu-ray of, Vine compilation, like, I don't think anybody's gonna buy that. You know what I mean? Not even that they don't think those Vines are hilarious and they don't have fond memories of that time when Vine was around. Like, there's a lot of reasons too, but it's just not the same. Just not the same thing. You know what I mean? I think that people also, there's like this brain rot logic on the internet where if I say like, just because you play guitar doesn't make you a composer, right? Then somebody will say, like, why do you think that playing guitar is less than being a composer? You know what I mean? Because it's like one has to be hierarchy of the other. You know what I mean?
The prestigiousness of that.
Yeah. So, but like because I say just because you play guitar doesn't mean you're a composer. That means there has to be some negative connotation, from my point of view, of guitar players. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But that's just not true.
That's just how people receive opinions.
Yeah. Just like if you just want to be a guitar player and you don't want to write songs, then you're not a composer. Like, you don't write songs, right? Like, and that should be a simple statement, But so I think when you say like something like Marvel movies or theme park rides, they're not really cinema, then immediately people go, well, why are theme park rides trash all of a sudden? Like, you know what I mean? Or like, why are you like diminishing a Marvel movie, not calling it cinema? Because they have to have some kind of like levels to everything.
These distinctions, tiers,
but but it has to be tiered. Like, it's like a ranking, like cinema's up here, and if I like it, then it also has to be up there, because what I like is cinema. You know what I mean?
As if cinema is more important than Marvel movies. When, like you said, it's true that there's no good and bad. They're all just like different types. There's just all different types of stories to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're
I mean, it's like, it's genres of music. It's it's like, whatever, like, pointillism versus something else. You know what I mean? Like, they're just all different things. It's like, or like, I would say more like photorealism versus like impressionistic, right? Is that like, just because you can draw photoreal, people like put that on such a pedestal, but it's like, what is the art? You know what I mean? Like, being able to do a photoreal ballpoint pen drawing is just another type of thing. You know what I mean? But also making like great whatever kind of art, landscape drawings or murals or graffiti or whatever, like, they're all just as valuable. Like, they're all the same thing. You know what I mean?
I mean, like, Van Gogh didn't really do any of that, but he's one of my personal favorite visual artists, painters ever. Like, Starry Night is not supposed to be this realistic, as if you're there type of visual. It's purely like.
But like, people see all the time, they're like, that there's this one guy, I can't remember what his name is, but he does like the realistic photoreal ballpoint pen drawings, and people think that's like peak art. And then there's this other guy that he draws with like crayons and markers, and he did like one of the Tyler Creator album arts. I don't know. It's like a.
Is the one with like the weird pink character or whatever.
I don't remember. It looks like a
cherry bomb or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah. But like people on his TikTok all the time are like, anybody could draw this, anybody could do this, and it's like, first of all, what annoys me about that is that they absolutely cannot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I would say, okay, so then draw that drawing he made. Here are the crayons, here are the markers, make it look just like that, if anybody can do it. And it's like, they can't. Already they can't do that, so that's annoying. But the point is that there's no actual distinction of good or bad or like quality necessarily to be made of them, because you could have a really good theme park ride movie. Like, it could be the best movie of the year. I would say Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah,
probably has like I would say arguably the best script of that entire year, because it's like the structure is perfect. Like, it doesn't have like the whatever. It's not like some a lot of dialogue or great dialogue or something. It doesn't have like the character depth of like Marriage Story or whatever, right? But it's like, for what its goal is, its intentions, and obviously the process of making that movie was also amazing. Like, it's so solid. It's like every beat for beat is perfect. That movie has like the best structure of awesome. Like so many movies. You know what I mean? And that is a theme park ride movie. And I think that's one of the best movies that came out.
Doesn't mean that it's a bad movie. It's just completely different than
it's just it's not Marriage Story. It's not like right. You know what I mean?
To me, it's like the topic or the main theme. It's a lot of these things are, to me, like the thematic element of it, or the whole theme of it is the most important part of it. But the theme of someone talking about, for example, like the movie Moonlight or anything like that, when it talks about like what it means to exist, and the very like what it actually means to be human, and things that are very important to me. Is the subject something that's very important that people can ponder, that they can take something away from and walk away from it thinking about it? Like, does it get you thinking? Does it make you go outside of yourself in that way? And I'm not that means that it's any more like it's a better movie or that it's any more artistic than
I think that also the problem that like we're running into right now, and probably like anybody that would listen to this would be pulling their hair out, is that the problem is that there's no actual like word for it. You know what I mean? Because I think there really hasn't been a time in history when basically anybody with a laptop or whatever, like even to like become like an artist, you would have to go to like school so you could like afford the supplies and you could have like access to things. You know what I mean? But like now everything, like people can buy an iPad and an Apple Pencil and do whatever they want and Procreate like to infinity. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's no, it's endless at that point. Like you can have any kind of brush. It could look like watercolor. It could look like acrylics. It could look like charcoal.
The amount of investment, personal time investment or financial investment is or just completely like different.
But even just like the space that you need. Yeah. Like if you wanted to like have a place where you could store everything that you can have on Procreate in like an artist studio, like you're talking cabinets and all these different things, like furniture, and you need an easel, and you need, you know what I mean? Like, and you need all these different types of things. So I feel like we've never lived in a time when maybe we shouldn't be calling it content, maybe we shouldn't be calling it art, maybe we should be calling it cinema. You know what I mean? Like there needs to be like a new thing to describe this new thing.
Outside of just creative.
Yeah, because I think also what people get hung up on is that the word cinema, which rightfully so, but the word cinema has like the meaning of all movies. Like cinema is any movie that ever plays or is ever made, right?
In the theaters, or outside.
And I think all of them.
Yeah,
like
theater or not. Yeah.
Like cinema just means a movie. You know what I mean? So when people saw like Scorsese saying that it's not cinema, he's saying like, this is outside of my art. The medium I have as an artist, this is outside of that. This is something else. Yeah. But I think it's more of like it's more nuanced, but there's no word that exists to create that nuance. You know what I mean? Be like when people say like rap isn't music. You know what I mean? It's like that's not true. Like rap is music, and some rap songs and some albums and some artists are like they're the best like that have ever existed in the realm of music, but somebody that does rap is doing something intentionally, and their artistic process is fundamentally different than Prince. You know what I mean? Like, it just is. And not to like put it like, you know, on different levels, but we need like that word for I don't know.
Yeah, how do you say that?
It just like honestly, it needs to be its own art form in a way. Like, it needs to be like, I think, understood as its own art form, you know?
Well, as far as on that topic of music, though, like, there is a huge difference between someone that spends time learning an instrument versus making music electronically.
Yeah.
To me, electronically driven music is still music, but are they musicians? No, they're like producers to me.
Right.
Or they're still composing, but yeah, they're not. Like, the only reason I can't say that they're musicians is because you can't play a computer. You can't, like,
but
bring a computer.
There's no other word.
Yeah, there isn't.
Adjacent to musician, that means that. You know what I mean? Like, we only have the word musician.
Right.
So if you were to say producers are not musicians, then everybody's going to be up in arms about saying, like, you're saying they're not making music and they're not artists. Like, they just follow this, like, that same brain rot logic that, like, somehow everything has to be less than. You know what I mean? But we just need that, like, that second grouping, you know? If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that's tough. That probably won't ever, unless someone does like create some new phrase or like, does there have to be that next technological jump for something for that to kind of make more sense?
The real answer is that people need to just unbunch their panties and not worry about it. Like, that's the real answer. Because I think like saying like this is an artistic endeavor and this is a content-driven endeavor is like, that should be fine. Like, anybody that's like posting the same video on TikTok that's just text over their face, like some joke or some tweet from like 10 years ago that they're just copying and pasting, like, call that content. Like, what's the big deal? You know what I mean? Like, the people that make that know that they're not putting any effort into it. They know they're not making any artistic, like, attempt at doing that. So, it's just content. Just don't call it art. Even though you could do that artfully, like, that is not it. You know what I mean? Like, you can do anything that is content and make it into art, and you can take any art form and turn it into content. It's just like, how does it define itself in its intention and its process? Like, that's all it is to me.
Yeah. I think... I feel like the main... Just the word content really rubs me the wrong way. Because it equates to something as opposed to the thing. It's like the way... That's the difference that it is to me is... Content creation is I made something and then it's... And then the artistic approach is, no, I made this. This is an important... Right. It's really like, how important is it to you as well? Like, anything I've posted on Instagram ever, on my story, on the feed, anything on Facebook, TikTok, all of that will never hold up a candle to how I feel releasing my actual albums or singles or music that I've recorded and produced myself. And it's also like I think in my head too, it's like a financial difference. I've spent money on recording music. Yeah. We've spent like time making the music video and investing like our attention into it. Anything that I farted out on my fucking phone is nowhere near the amount of effort that I've put into that. So you've put into that. So that's the one distinction that I feel with it is how much time and how much care. Like, do you really care about... It's like I don't know if I like to call, you know, my work, or I don't know if anyone likes to call their work, like, their babies, but it kind of is that from a, like, treating it with fragility or treating it from like, with, like I said, like, handling it with care kind of thing. Why do people spend, like, so many years having a script and it never gets produced? It's because they really give a shit about what their script is going to be. Like, Matt Damon quitting, like, fucking, I don't know if he quit Harvard, but, like, him and Ben Affleck, I think, one of them, like, when they were writing Good Will Hunting, one of their screenwriting teachers was just like, no, this isn't good. Like, you have to do, and then they were like, fuck, they just quit and they made it anyway, you know, and it goes on to win.
But I think right there is why people, like, most people are not artists, or at least, you know, they're not artists in the, like, they're not filmmakers necessarily, right? Or musicians or whatever. And this is why it becomes an argument, because artists don't like their work being bunched in with the 99% of the stuff they see turned out constantly, and then the people that turn that stuff out constantly, or the people that consume it too, like, are maybe like insecure or feel insulted when an artist doesn't want to be grouped in with that, and that gives a sense of like elitism, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Where it's like saying, you're beneath me for enjoying that content, or you're beneath me for making that content, when like somebody who made like something autobiographical or just of an experience or an expression or something like that they put time, thought, and effort into, that even if it's not personal, but it's just like, you know, you made like Halloween or something, like, you know what I mean, like, or some Friday the 13th, that's, you know, not necessarily looked at as like highbrow, like, but it's meaningful to you and is made by an auteur who like had an intention.
Yeah.
They just don't want that stuff bunched in with like, I don't know, like some random comedy YouTuber who's just like does the same thing 5 days a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it like that just creates an argument. Or it creates like a tension, you know what I mean? Where it's like artists probably talk down to those people, and then those people are offended, and they're like, you know, I'm doing the same thing as you, like I'm making movies too. But at the same time, it's like,
it's hard not to laugh at that. You're absolutely fucking right, though. And some people look at it that way, but I'm like, that's fucking hysterical to think about that.
But like the person who makes like vlogs every day, right? Like just like kind of films himself going to like, or whatever, Fun Depot or something, you know, like, I think, oh, actually, a better example, there was this filmmaker, and I can never remember anybody's names, bro, but he used to do those, he's like this, I think he's like a redheaded guy from TikTok, and he used to do those like videos where he would put the music from Twilight. I don't even like remember what the gag was exactly, but it was like always him making the same face, and it would be that like dum 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 from Twilight, you know, like. And he gained like millions of followers on TikTok, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna produce this short film," and blah blah blah. And there was like all this backlash because he like charged too much for it, whatever, right? But it's like he sees himself as a real artist, and he knows that he's just making those random Twilight videos like as content, and it gained him a following, and he thought that following would translate into people consuming his art, like, honestly, you know, like, or on good faith at least, being like, oh, I watch this guy's videos all the time, he's really funny, like, I'll spend the whatever it costs, even if it's like 5% of his like 4 million followers or whatever, right? Like, it doesn't even have to be that many, but there was like a weird,
still like a few 100,000.
Yeah, but it's like such a weird backlash to it, you know what I mean? And I think it's just because like there's a weird tension between this like art versus content thing, you know?
To me, when I hear stuff like that, all I'm thinking is these people aren't real fans. They just want to like stay updated on what's happening.
Honestly, I don't think anybody on the internet has real fans.
No, not really.
If you're famous from social media, I just don't think that real fans exist in that space. Like, I think you might have like I don't know what the actual number would be, but I would say the more followers and the more like views you have, the smaller the percentage of actual fans is, you know?
Yeah.
So if you get like 10, 12, 15 million views on every video, I think it's just like a tiny, tiny percentage of those people that actually like care about it. People are just there because it's routine and it's consistent and their algorithm is pushing you. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I don't think you
can... when people are sending, if you can mass send a little 30-second clip to 20, 30 different people, 10 or 15 of them watch that you sent it to them in their DMs or whatever,
But I don't think you
is
can
that sharing it so quickly and easily. Is that really the same thing as
if you average
going out of your way?
10 million people watching every single one of your videos, even no matter how often you post, if you post like 5 days a week and you got 10 million views on them every single time, I don't think you could get 10 million people to click on a link. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like those 10 million people, that's like just like a made up number. You know what I mean? Like, I guess by whatever metric YouTube or whoever counts it as a view, it qualified. But I don't think that doesn't translate to real fans or real growth or real anything. I think maybe as like a brand recognition thing, you might be able to leverage that in a negotiation to get to the next level. But even then, like, studios aren't like hiring YouTubers necessarily, like, because they're famous. Like,
no.
I don't think it translates to dollars. It doesn't translate to like anything tangible for them to anybody who does any research into it to think it's worthwhile. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that's also another part of it too. I think all those people that spent like in 2007 and 8, like in that 2000 whatever, like 6 to 10 maybe, whatever that like time period of like peak YouTubers is, and that the fact that basically none of them have made any kind of real mainstream career since then. I can't think of one.
Outside of that? Not really. So even if even if they have, it's because they have something else to bring to the table, not just their bullshit videos that they're putting.
But I would say even like somebody like Issa Rae, like, I think that
I don't even know, is that
she used to have some HBO show that I can't remember the name of, but she was a YouTuber first, and then she had that show, and I can't remember what it's called.
It's called fucking, I know what you're talking about.
But anyways,
Insecure? You're talking about the woman that made Insecure, right?
I think it's Insecure, yeah. I think though that if that show wasn't good, then it would have all been for nothing. Like, I'm sure she got the opportunity to make that show.
I didn't know she was an internet personality. I thought she was just kind of...
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the thing. That, to me, that's how, like, useless the whole internet thing is. It's like... I mean, maybe it's unfair to call it useless because, like I said, she probably got some kind of leverage.
These things are all stepping stones. The problem with that is it's not actually the end result that anyone wants to end up. No one wants to be a super, like, success... Like, Chris Pratt, Tom Holland, Timothée Chalamet are not going out of their way. Well, at the end of all of this, you know what I'm going to sit and make a YouTube channel. Like, that's not the end goal. The problem with the internet stuff is it's a literal, like, always a first step or some sort of stepping stone to these better opportunities and to these better jobs and gigs that are going to be financially...
But I don't know that that's proven to be true for, like, a significant amount of people.
I just mean, like, that's my whole outlook at it. Like, no one wants to, like, end up doing that.
I think that's how people think about it, but I don't know that that's anything to suggest that that's real.
I feel you.
You know what I mean?
But as far as is that not, like, the main distinction that people have with internet versus actually being in Hollywood or working on bigger productions?
Well, I think that goes back to why people that make content hate it not being called art or getting a different distinction is because they feel like that elitism, that separation. But I think it's less about elitism and it's more about the means of delivery on YouTube or any streaming service for that matter.
Yeah.
Even Netflix, you know, or Hulu or whatever. Like, the means of that delivery is just less impactful. People forget about it. You know what I mean? Like, I think a Netflix movie getting released just on Netflix would be like, all right, you can stream it from this day forward. Like, people watch it, but nothing sinks in, nothing sticks, nothing matters, like, when you do that. You know what I mean? As opposed to, like, Dune 2, which, like, I don't know if it made, like, the most money in the world, but, like, it felt like it had a little sticking power in the culture. You know what I mean? People will be ready to watch Dune Part 3 when it comes out. You know what I mean? I don't think that, generally speaking...
And even still, like, Dune is, like been done, and it is a book, or it's, like, the fact that it's got this...
I mean, it's all...
No, to me, it's no different than, like, Star Wars or Harry Potter. It's just got this fan base that they knew would, like, definitely take the bait.
That's true, too, but I feel like if Dune was just a Max show, or a Max, like, franchise or whatever, like, they made Dune and just it was on Max, which I think the first one was actually just released on Max. Or maybe it was...
I think both of them.
Max and movie theaters at the same time.
Yeah, right.
And then Dune Part 2 came out in theaters. Oh, like, you know, had, like, its own theatrical window.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways... I think if it was just a Netflix series, it wouldn't have the like roots. Like I feel like there's just something about it. It's like all very nebulous, like intangible types of things. Like I don't know how like quantifiable it is.
Sure.
But it just feels like something like Dune, or I'm trying to think of another big movie. Or even like Oppenheimer. Like if Oppenheimer came out just on HBO Max or Max, I just have a hard time believing. Like first of all, in no way would it have ever made like $800 or $900 million for the studio, right? Yeah. Like there's no way for anything to like make that kind of return not in the movie theater. And that's a big part of it. But it's like something so fleeting about this like internet only bubble. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That reminds me, before I forget, like the main problem that I have with all of that shit is just simply how forgettable a lot of it is, and how it does not, to me, and of course this can't really be, we won't know this till maybe 20 or 30 years from now when we see what actually sticks around, what doesn't, but I don't see anybody really giving a shit about the popular content creators. Right now, I don't see people giving a shit about them later on, but we still talk about 8.5, and we still talk about, Fellini is his name, right? Yeah. We still talk about like Hitchcock and very important filmmakers or composers and artists from hundreds of years ago, like Shakespeare and Mozart. Like, why do we still talk about these people, and why are they practically immortal hundreds of years later? It's because the work is very important, and it's a very
I also think that
impactful.
We had more of like a monoculture then, where it's like I just watched City Lights, the Chaplin movie, and like by the time he made City Lights, he was like probably like the most popular filmmaker like in the world, right? Like, and there's only space for like the one, right? Like there's not like all of these, like there could be somebody on YouTube that has like 10, 20 million subscribers and we've never heard of him. He could be getting like 15, 16, 30, 40 million views every video, like, and we've never ever heard of him. Like there's like a weird like it's accessible to everyone, but that makes it like disappear, you know, in a way. Like something could be so hidden because it could just find its own corner somewhere in the internet, and its people find it and they just stay dedicated to that, and it is what it is, you know what I mean? It's like it's technically there for everyone and anybody can find it, but because that's true of everything on the internet, things can just be in some dark corner that you'll never find, and it has a whole community. People that make it are like multi-millionaires and whatever.
And that's why the follow and subscribe buttons are the... I mean, what's funny is you could be subscribed and follow somebody and still not see their shit. Like, that's what's absolutely insane to me, is like I am subscribed to many different YouTube channels,
but think
and I maybe see it's and that is still like the amount that they post is whether you'll see it or not. Like,
but I'm even talking about like millions upon millions of minutes of YouTube are uploaded every second, right? Yeah. Just by that volume alone, there's somebody out there who sits in their room or wherever and makes videos and has like just tons of money, tons of viewership, and all those different types of things. You know, viewership by whatever metric YouTube counts views, but like just racking up millions, but you'll never ever stumble upon it. You know what I mean? And like, I think that's why we remember like Fellini, because like this is like I mean, we remember him, yes, because like all the stuff was great and it was very influential and stuff. But it's also that there was nobody else to remember like that from those times. You know what I mean?
That's like, true. It was like the few people that were not only dedicated but actually found some sort of success with it was like a small handful compared to...
so everybody like writes about them. Like,
that's true.
They're the ones that have the biggest movie of the year or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's like a trackable history and their name sticks. And then obviously being influential and stuff like that. You know, like Kurosawa's name will live forever, if for nothing else, because he directly inspired George Lucas to make Star Wars. You know what I mean?
And many other filmmakers.
Yeah, I mean, still he's like the most like remade filmmaker or whatever, like one of them. And it's like,
as far as like people like literally take like frames or certain shots that he's done and they like use that
but
as
also
inspiration, right?
Like Seven Samurai has been remade a bunch of times, like, you know,
right.
and like Rashomon 2 and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the internet actually makes it harder to, like, it's almost, you know, like this. It's supposed to be that the cream rises to the top, or whatever that saying is, right? But it's like, if everything's cream, then there's no top to rise to. You know what I mean? And like, that's what the internet does. Like, it levels the playing field on such a way that like, just that everybody exists like at peak, always. You know?
Right.
And if you're getting like 100 million views or you're getting like 60 million views, it's kind of like really no difference. You know what I mean? Like, I guess maybe you make more money, but you know.
What's funny is like actual views only create a certain amount of monetization that there's a reason why all of the popular people have to do sponsorships, have to do oh, by the way, a word from people that gave me $50,000 to mention them in this video because they know millions of people are gonna they don't have a choice. They make a big paycheck with that, and I guarantee they make more in that uttering someone's brand is gonna make them more money than however many watch hours that they're getting. The other problem is, and there's always I always see this stuff pop up with like this about the CEO of Spotify, all that as well, is like these companies are essentially taking a bit too big of a cut from it too, that like is basically everyone else is getting the leftovers, is how it feels, at least. Like if one view or any sort of like an hour of watch time led to $100 or anything like that, not only would people be doing that more, but they would want to they would do everything they could to make that hour-long video rewatchable as much as they can, and you try to make it interesting. You know? That's the other thing too. Is
but like those companies like Spotify, like even if you divided all that money, like if it wasn't just totally driven by greed, which it definitely is, but it's like at the same time, just the premise of having a streaming platform that's in theory like the goal is to have all music at your fingertips always, like that is already a broken premise. You know what I mean? Because like that'd be like if only one record label ever existed and every single artist was under that label. Like that's just not realistic. You know what I mean? And it shouldn't be, because it sucks anyways. You know what I mean? Like everybody shouldn't be under the same banner. But like that is like the exact, like we need to bring back like a level of gatekeeping needs to exist. You know what I mean? Like there needs to be barriers, not like barriers as in, you know, racial discrimination or whatever, like homophobia and stuff like that. But there needs to be like filters that only like certain people will make it through because of either the quality of their work or the uniqueness of their work or whatever. You know what I mean? This idea that like all music should exist on Spotify and we just like hand out crumbs to everyone is like, that's already done. Yeah. You know what I mean? Whether or not the CEOs are taking way too much pay or not. You know what I mean? Like you as an independent artist should be able to sell your records or whatever and make money and just make a living. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
I was blown away the day that I realized, like, oh, because I think for a while when Spotify was a new thing and whatever, I was in my head like, oh, you probably have to like do a whole process and do a whole thing just to get songs on there. I thought it was this whole, you know, specific, like, oh, you have to like do it the right way. And it was like, oh, you just have to go, and eventually I was like, wait, you just have to spend some money on DistroKid and you can put whatever you want on there. And Apple Music and every other streaming platform that exists, like in one fucking payment. I was like, oh, okay, so literally anybody can post, anybody can put anything they want on there, no matter how
there's a great
the quality of it. And that's where a lot of artists or a lot of people, especially on TikTok, Instagram, were like using sounds and using music as a whole thing. Is where there's this whole movement now of like, oh, shitty, like as low quality as possible, like garbage music that's supposed to be fun and it's supposed to be like, it's supposed to be bad, you know, or it's supposed to be like fuck off music, and it's kind of almost got more viewership or more recognizability than than anybody else just because it's so bad. It's good and people like want to share. You know, people are always gonna want to share. Look at this piece of shit movie or a piece of shit. Like, why is The Room popular? Like, why is it? People do like stuff so bad that it's good, but the thing is the problem with that is that it feels like it's overshadowing everything else. That's the whole thing. Is homemade, low quality, low budget stuff. I mean, I think as much as I love it, as much as I love like indie movies and stuff that's made on a shoestring budget, like Pi or anything like that, I fucking love that shit. I hate that there's this. I mean, like you're saying, there's just this open
I
fucking
think
door.
Only a problem
there's
on
this
the
open
internet,
door.
though.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
I think it's like movies like The Room would always like in a whatever would constitute a healthy, like, good level of gatekeeping and, you know, filters of quality. Like a movie like The Room will always kind of like sneak in because it does have that like X factor that's just like, you know, for whatever reason it's so bad it's compelling, you know, type of deal.
It's exceptionally
Personally,
like,
I find The Room incredibly boring and not that funny and unwatchable in every way.
Well, that's a whole other. We could do a whole other episode on a whole other episode.
But the point is that will always happen. Like that in and of itself is not a bad thing. It's just that like there's no distinction on the internet,
right?
Because everything is content. But there's actually a I don't know if it still exists, but there was like a website or something or this app, or I forget what it was. I feel like it was only on a computer, called like Forgetify or something like that, and it would find it somehow like connected to the Spotify library, and any song that had never ever been played before is all that played on there. So whatever song you're hearing, you are the first person to ever hear it. Like
man,
you're the first person to ever play it on Spotify, and like
that's cool as fuck.
But the downside,
the idea of that is cool as fuck.
But almost all of them are terrible songs. You know what I mean?
Man.
Like, because it's like, it's just bad songs. But it just really it puts into perspective how much is uploaded to Spotify all the time. And the fact that, like, anybody can get on there and, like, be the first person to hear something and it's terrible. It's like, to me, sums up everything about art on the internet. You know? And that's actually, that's not even to talk about the fact that, like, there are some incredible artists on the internet who are doing like the Lord's work, dude. Like they are.
Dude, I fucking love a lot of the visual artists that I follow on Instagram.
But then it's like Instagram's like, oh, we're gonna scrape all of your work for AI training, and then nobody wants to be on there anymore. So now it's like I
didn't even know that was a thing. You're saying that they basically made it to they said, oh, we have the right
like
to use
Instagram
this,
basically update their thing, and I guess technically you can opt out of it, but I've also seen people say that it's like it's really difficult and it seems unconvincing that you're actually fully opt out of it. So they're just like don't want to be on Instagram anymore. But basically, they like updated some policy or something that says that they have the right to train their AI. Like Meta has the right to train their AI on anything you upload, pretty much. So like I could type in like, I want to. Like there's this guy that draws. His name is Paul Heaston. I think it is something like that. Paul Heaston is like, drawing of Rio in the style of Paul Heaston, and then it's been trained on his whole Instagram, so they can just like basically steal your art. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now it's just gonna be just doubling down on everything being terrible. You know.
God damn, man. Goddamn. Oh my god.
So now it's only going to be people that are making the content that they don't care about. You know what I mean? Like, only making things, like, the only thing I ever post, other than my grid, like how I do my grid on Instagram, I only ever post stories on Instagram. And I know that they're, like, stealing all that too. But, like, I don't know. The idea of, like, having so much stuff just live on the internet forever like that. And I'm not, like, delusional in thinking that like my Instagram stories are somehow like they're deleted after 24 hours, right? I mean they're all like on my archive and stuff, and I know like
everything's archived,
and like even if it said even if Instagram or Meta told me explicitly we do not save anything, I would not believe them. I'd believe everything I've ever posted is saved on a hard drive somewhere, even if I deleted it. But just the idea.
Oh shit. Fuck. I wish I can undo all the things I've posted. That no.
Yeah. But I even forgot what I was going with that. But it's just like,
things being saved.
Yeah, it's just like, it just kind of sucks to have your stuff just like live on the internet. Like when anybody ever wants to experience it, it's like, oh, you should check out his Instagram. Like something about it just seems sucky to me.
Yeah.
And all of the artists that I follow, that I've seen, all the ones that I feel like are really doing special stuff, like they all have a real world component of their work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even the digital artists, like
yeah, you can actually like get a physical copy of it, or you can.
Yeah.
You mean by that? Yeah.
Or just like even like some 3D artists, is like Blender artists and stuff like that. Like they all have some kind of element in the real world where you can like experience their art. You know what I mean?
Right.
At least the ones that I follow. I
know that's like all that it should be, right? Like that's what it was at first, and now it's like for a while I looked at it all that it was is like an advertisement, or like you said, like a billboard, or a some sort of public sharing of the work itself.
I do like the idea of having some kind of like public journal, zine type thing. Like I like the concept of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it gets squirrely when like Instagram just tells you to your face that they're gonna steal your art, but like.
But those lines are blurred now. Like there's such a blurry area on like what was.
But the idea of it is good. But for most people that are consuming it, that's the end. Like that's the finish line for them, right? They're gonna see like your photography, or they're gonna listen to your music on Instagram, and nothing happens after that. You know what I mean? They're not gonna buy a photo book. They're not gonna come to like an exhibition. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
a lot of people will. Like that's just crazy.
But even for like really big artists, like you're getting like a small percentage of that group,
and that's why they have to charge so much more to go see a concert or whatever, because they have to maximize whatever seats that they're filling in that. Meanwhile, like I don't know. I've seen this clip of like Nirvana talking about like why they'll never like raise their ticket prices, and it was like such a different thing. At that point in time, going to see a show was almost like going to see the movies. Like you could afford it, and you could, as long as you were like available, you could go and check it out. And now you got like Taylor Swift charging like $5,000 a seat.
Yeah,
and it's just like there's just something so wrong about that. There's something so wrong about like
I think
all right, so music isn't making any money anymore.
Yeah.
So of course I understand people having to like maximize the profit from people going to see the live show. I think
also on that level of extreme though, it becomes bigger than just like any one industry. I think that the world, or at least I shouldn't say the world maybe, but like the country at large is like so struggling with the fact that like what I do for a living, I should be making like at least 6 figures easy. It's like, it's a specialized industry. Is like, I do basically every step of production, from like writing to delivering, like everything. You know what I mean? Like that, it actually shouldn't even be the case, to be honest with you. Like I should only either I'm a producer that oversees and hires people, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, but like if I was,
as far as your filmmaking stuff outside of social media,
no, like my actual job.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're right.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, like, but if I was doing this in the 70s, I would be making enough money to raise a family of 4.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and own a house. And own 2 cars,
because there weren't that many professionals that knew what they were doing,
but even
and were like.
But also that a job should pay you. Any job that you have, whether you work at McDonald's or clean bathrooms or work in a corporate Target or whatever, like your job should be able to pay for you to exist and be the sole breadwinner and support a family and buy a house. You know what I mean? Like otherwise, like what's a job for if it can't provide those things? Like it's done.
Well, it's become.
Yeah,
a means to an end. It's become like I don't have a choice. I have to make something. Like and
exactly.
And the problem with that is,
but like that's like, the bigger problem.
Yeah, like no one's. The thing with that rubs me the wrong way is like no one actually wants to be at any of those places. I would much rather have someone working in a drive-thru or a fast food place or any retail place. I'd much rather talk to someone who is into that and wants to do that and is interested in that, and they're helping. They have a lot of knowledge about it. But the thing is every single person that you encounter at jobs like that or those types of companies, any corporations or anything like that, they're all there because they don't have a choice and that they have to. Yeah. And there is no, like, the passion for those things.
But that's what everybody's
non-existent.
That's what everybody's doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why.
I mean, dude, even me or you, like, I mean, I love playing music for a living, but I don't love, like, being a bar or restaurant's, like, bitch. Like, I'm the owner's bitch, basically. Yeah. And I don't like people not having a certain respect for us. I don't like there are so many things that I fucking hate about it, but it's like the least shitty job that I've had in my life. It's also like it's the one thing that I am willing to put up with all that stuff. I mean, how do you feel about like all the, you know, everything that you do with your the projects you work on?
I feel like what the work is like irrelevant. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
I feel like maybe me personally am not capable of. I think that if I had any other job, I would quit every other year and I would just be changing jobs all the time. So like for that, it's good. But I think that it's more that you should just be able to afford every single thing, plus saving, plus vacation, right? No matter what job you have. I think that the problem with like people doing the grind of just like dumping content on internet is because ultimately, like in the biggest picture, we're all just like rats on a sinking ship, and everybody's trying to scramble for the surface. Like that's all it is.
100%.
You know what I mean? And
just trying to make a buck because there are so few ways to make a decent living. And I think now.
Even though Taylor Swift is a billionaire probably and makes all this money, like that, everything trickles up from that. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, if the regular average Joe person can't afford to go to like 3-4 concerts a year, then she's gonna charge $5,000 for one show, and like that will be the show you go to, and you're gonna go into debt for it. You know what I mean? Like, but that's just like a problem with everything across the board. You know?
Right.
I think.
I mean, I'm in debt making and recording music.
Yeah.
Like just from the fucking very nature of having to spend my own money that I make,
right,
and self-producing all of it. And it's like, of course, if anything pops off with any of it, I get all of that as well because it's all my own,
right,
self-produced, self-invested,
right,
part of it. But I'm like negative like $3,000 or $4,000. I'm easily $4,000 or $5,000 from when we were recording it together, all the way up to now.
Right.
Over time, it's easily like with paying for mixes, all that shit, and paying for instruments. Taking the time to do that instead of making money doing something else, like all of that shit is I've created a debt because I just want to do it.
I think that the solution for the whole art versus content thing is that we need, like, if you make something artful that took time and money, right? Like, it's one thing if like you just scroll through TikTok and you just watch all these videos and nothing really matters and whatever, right? Like, that didn't really cost them anything to make necessarily, and it doesn't cost you anything to view. The solution to making a real distinction is that when you put together a project, is that you can now package it and sell it somehow, right? Yeah. And like, that's what matters.
Right.
But you can't do that because people are working 7 days a week at 2, 3, 4 jobs to like just get by, you know what I mean? Like, just to make rent. They're not going to spend $35, $40, $50 on what you have that is, even if that's fairly priced to the quality and what it was, like, that will just never happen, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or I mean, it's
not worth, if they can get it for free and they have to get things for free because they can't afford it.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, when Jurassic Park came out in '93, you could have been fresh out of high school, living on your own, having a car, having your own place. Like, you could have like had all of that and gone to see that movie maybe like multiple times on the weekend that it opened.
Yeah.
And you would have been able to spend that and not think twice about it. But now the movies are like, easily, including concessions and shit, easily you could spend $60 or $70 by yourself. By yourself could easily spend that money, and that's fucking bullshit. That's fucking bullshit, dude. There's a reason. That alone is, as much as I love movies, just as much as you, man, just as much as anybody, I respect that you're one of the few people that I know that still goes to the theater, that watches.
But I could never go to the theater as often as I do without having an A-list subscription. Because I pay about whatever.
Oh, man, that's right.
Well, I pay, like, I don't even know what it is, honestly. But it's somewhere between $23 and $27. I don't know what it is a month. But
oh, shit.
But that gets me, like, 12 movies, right? And one movie that I see is, like, at least $23. So I would be spending...
As far as a ticket, if you didn't have that, a ticket to see it? Yeah.
So my subscription is, like, $20-something a month, I'm pretty sure. And one ticket is, like, $20-something. Right? So since I get 12 tickets in my subscription, that if I were to pay for each ticket, I'm paying at least $100 and something a month based on how much movies I go see every month, right?
Yeah. That's
like insane.
Yeah.
There's like it'd be more than my car insurance. You know what I mean?
God damn, dude. God damn. Yeah, that's pretty rough, man. And I see there's like a documentary coming out about MoviePass. I forgot.
I think it already came out.
Really, I vaguely remember that, but I don't remember the story about it. But was it kind of similar to that? Like it was a thing where like similar to that.
Yeah, it was a subscription, and then you could buy tickets through it, like with your subscription. But like I don't know, I'm curious to watch it just because.
And it failed, obviously. That's the point of the documentary.
Well, it failed, but I feel like it failed because like the CEOs like went on like yacht vacations or something. Like I don't remember, like some crazy story or something.
It had nothing to do with whether it was actually successful. Whether people.
I think ultimately they would have had to have like bought tickets in bulk and sold them at discounted prices, right? Or I mean, rather bought them at discounted prices, and then so basically maybe there's like whatever 10,000 tickets for this movie, and then they just sell out on MoviePass, like, because I think MoviePass did show that if people could afford it, they would go to the movie theater, like,
right?
Because
I would go way more often than not, but I already pay for streaming services, so I already am paying, and they're raising it more and more every couple months. It feels like I'm already paying close to $20 per subscription.
Right.
That there's also this like it's like they're at war with each other. Where it's like, I want to go see stuff in theaters, but if I would wait a little bit, I can get what's included in my paid subscription, and it's already going to be there anyway. It's like, really, where do I feel like spending that money at that point? Where do I feel like, And
I mean, to me, my AMC A-list like is just my subscription. I think the only thing that I actually subscribe to is the Disney Plus bundle that has Hulu and ESPN, and I have Amazon Prime, but
you're getting more with that though.
Yeah. But I never watch it.
Oh, you're kidding. I only
because I only bought it because I pay for like my family's Disney Plus basically.
I see. Okay. See, that's how it is. Is like my family and friends and I have just kind of been using each other's like shit at this point. Like I pay for Prime, Max, and Hulu.
I only pay for Prime because
Disney Plus and
buy things on Amazon Prime, so it just like comes with it.
But now
I never watch
they just upped it to where if you want ad-free Prime, you have to pay an extra $2 or $3.
Oh wow, that's funny.
I literally was at my girlfriend's fucking about to throw something on Prime, and it was just like, oh, you have to pay for this. Immediately it was just like, oh yeah, if you want ad-free or whatever the fuck, you have to pay for this. And I was like,
pretty much
dude,
don't watch any streaming services. I watch The Bear on Hulu. And I watch usually most of the Star Wars things.
Yeah.
And the Marvel stuff on Disney Plus.
Again, it's like a quantity,
but that's it.
Of the quantity of things on there kind of ruins the quality.
Honestly,
ruins anything.
They're making bank off me because like the amount of times that I basically never watch it, but I still pay for it every month. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but other people are watching it.
Yeah, I guess
so you are getting your money.
But I mean, it's like it's just in my household, like it's not like I don't know. It's not like another family somewhere else in the house is like also watching. They're not like getting two houses out of it. Like
that's why
how most people are with like Netflix and stuff like that.
Well, that's why Netflix changed that though too. It's like everyone was sharing their usernames and passwords too much, obviously, and then.
But like
now there's a limit. Like I can't even use it on my phone. I use my dad's Netflix. I can only watch it on my TV.
Yeah.
If I've tried using it on the phone, and then it's just like, oh, this device isn't a part of the household plan or whatever the fuck that is.
I am not a pervert, so I would never watch Netflix on my phone. But
No, I don't. It's the only time I watch any of those streaming services, to be honest, or like on my phone, is if I'm in the car and I have a long drive and I feel like listening to Seinfeld or something like that. Like I feel like listening to one of my.
Borderline psychotic.
The only time. Well, it's like one of those. I only do that if I'm like, if I was just playing music for a while. I'm sick of hearing music, but I want something in the car. You know. But that's it. But that's
so different.
No, but no, I'm right there with you. I would never watch a full movie on my phone.
If I ever if I play an album and I'm like, I'm not in the mood for that, silence the rest of the way.
See, like I don't have a problem with riding in the car quietly too, but when you're driving, I'm sure you know what that's like too. Though when you're driving like long distances, it's just like it just kills the boredom a little bit. It helps the boredom of. And it helps me not fall asleep. Like if I'm playing
theater of the mind, dude. It's all about my imagination.
Right. Very. Sounds very interesting. No, but that's dude. That's it's pretty wild. The as far as going back to the art versus content and just what is the internet doing to all of this? Like how is it affecting what people are consuming? My biggest problems with it are the forgettable nature of it. And as well as like when something is trending, it's all one repetitive joke that we're seeing like churned out constantly. For example, the Grimace shake trend that people were doing a while. Every video ended the same. Every single time the whole joke was like, well, I ordered this and then he like kills me and then it's like a crime. The old joke is that it would just cut to them like with the shake everywhere as if it's their blood and then it's like a crime scene. That was the joke, that was the trend, and it's like one of those, if you don't literally follow that exact blueprint, people are like going to have a problem with that. Like you can't make, like as far as a Grimace shake meme trend video TikTok bullshit thing, it's like one of those, if you try to do your own spin on it and bring some sort of creative shift into it or change it in any way, then it's like, oh no, you're not following the rules. Like you're not doing what we expect.
But I think there's also not the medium for it. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, sure.
I think I would say like the thing about everybody doing that trend is that you don't remember any individual one. You just remember the trend.
That it was you just mentioned multiple YouTubers throughout this podcast, and you don't remember either of their names. I've followed people and then unfollowed. I followed this girl who was like a one-armed musician. And now I see her in movies. I see her in, because she's like, oh, this representation of very cute, cute girl, like very like attractive, but her arm is like nothing. Like, she doesn't have a left arm or whatever the fuck. So people are always like impressed that she'd be playing piano or playing guitar with just and she was awesome. I don't remember her name. Like I unfollowed her at some point because I was just like, the way I look at that stuff is like, I follow people until I'm like just kind of like sick of seeing them at that point, and then I'm like sick of the repetitive nature of it. But she's awesome. She's super talented. She's doing one of my biggest fears is, which is losing a limb and not being able to play music the same way. Yeah. But again, it's like sad that I don't really like I don't ever listen to her music. I'm not really an actual fan of hers. I just watched it because it was like, oh, this is inspiring, or for like 2 seconds, and I couldn't tell you if my life depended on it. I couldn't tell you her name. So what's the problem with that shit is just how like we should know her name. We should know certain people's like whatever their image is, or we should. There are people that, and this is where it's hard to say this and not have it sound super elitist, but there are certain people that deserve the spotlight more than others. Is my whole mentality with it. Mm-hmm. Everyone's like now copy Jackass and copy what those guys did, but they're like the only people that I actually give a shit about doing that. Jackass Forever I watched in theaters. Jackass, it's like an experience, like with the audience and laughing, and it's like that's a whole thing with it. But no matter how many videos I see of people getting hurt, no matter how many people I see that are like, oh, YouTube stuntmen and people that are like doing extreme things, I just don't care about it as much for some reason, because A, they're not the first to do it, and B, it's not like there's very little entertainment in it for some reason in that platform. It's different watching a Jackass movie or an episode where it's like, oh, you're getting all of this in one thing, as opposed to watching a quick clip, and it's just like there's so many people doing it now. You have like what used to be a huge highlight on TV was like America's Funniest Home Videos, and a lot of it was people getting hurt, people slipping and falling, the grape stomping lady on YouTube falling and getting hurt. That was like a thing. And now it's like, dude, I see like 10, 15, 20 different clips of people getting injured on my Instagram feed at this point. And it's like watching people fall and get hurt. Yeah. Obviously, at that point, doesn't have the same significance as it used to. Now, I gotta watch like snuff films and watch people get murdered. No, I'm kidding. But no,
just to get your rocks off.
Just to like feel something. You know? No, it's wild. It's just wild to me that I've literally felt myself so into something or so into like a specific form of entertainment, and as soon as it's this cookie cutter, practically like a factory, it's like a factory made, constantly the same type of thing. The product itself feels super like. Like cookie cutter. It's hard to.
I think this is why
have that appreciation.
This is why I know we were talking about this like before we started recording, but I think this is why the gatekeeping and like a level of artificial scarcity is like really important. I guess like the nicer term is curating.
Yes,
but I think there needs to be like.
Gatekeeping has a horrible connotation now, right? But no, you're right. I agree.
But it is like, it's gatekeep. I mean, I guess gatekeeping has a connotation. But I guess curation to me is that you have like 10 really great songs, right? And then you decide like how you're going to program those songs, right? So you're going to say like, oh, these 3 songs are going to be, we're going to play this for jazz night on Wednesdays. And like, then these 3 songs or these 4 songs we're gonna like we're gonna play at this coffee shop for this book reading night or whatever. Like that's like curations, like finding like of these great works, like how can we both best facilitate them, right? Like how can we put them into a gallery, how do we like make it work? To me, why I guess I call it gatekeeping is because like what I'm thinking is a step before that, right? Like that work can't even be in the conversation unless it's passed through the gate. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Like, and that gatekeeping needs to be narrowed because the reason why I like all of it, like the internet, I feel like why it's all just like a wash is because nobody who makes anything wants it to just be a video like in a list of like 1,000 videos, right? Like nobody wants to like you find their video by searching like I don't know funny short film or something, right? Like and then you just click on it. Like
mix. YouTube has created this mix for you to watch 100 of them.
I hate those. I click on those so many times thinking they're the video that I'm looking for.
No, it's completely.
But it's like a mix and it goes like a channel or whatever. But anyways, but like when I was like doing that circus documentary, like that's one example. But then even like if I made a big painting, like if I made like a painting that I spent hours and I really want people to look at it, you don't want people to just like click a link and view it, right? You want people to like have to stand behind like a velvet robe and then there's like, museum lights on it and like all the different, you want like that whole thing. Like I think the psychological effect of how the art is presented is like underappreciated.
100%.
You know what I mean?
You look at Art Basel with the fucking duct taped banana. It's like the people like paid to be in there and they wanted to. So as soon as you see a duct taped banana, there's like this whole intrigue of like, oh, this seems like nothing, but why is it here? Right. Why do they go out of their way to display this?
But that's like also the artist wants that. Like that is the best avenue.
The conversation to be started. That's all that it should.
Like do. I would say like for the circus again, like having an arena tour, like where your circus just plays in like big venues, like the circus itself could be just as good, if not better than any other circus. It could literally be the best circus in the world. But there's still something special about going into like a tent, like a canvas tent that you've like seen in movies since like whatever, the 1940s or something like that. You know what I mean? Like that is just like such like an iconic image, and it's so ingrained in the culture that psychologically something about it feels more. You know what I mean? It's like it just adds so much to the experience, and that experience determines how you remember something. You know what I mean?
Always.
So I think that's like
people want to save all these experiences.
How it's delivered is like 50% of how like, I don't want to say how good it is, but like kind of in a way, you know what I mean? Like, can you imagine if like Schindler's List was like a YouTube video? Like I feel like nobody.
Basically, I mean, the last 10 minutes of it could be just a YouTube video. The last like 10 minutes of that movie could just be like, yep, like
but like,
and that would be pretty powerful. But that 10 minutes after 5-10 minutes after, I don't want to spoil anything. After the 3 hours of movie is significantly more impactful. You know?
But I just don't know. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that it wouldn't get millions of views, but like, what would that mean? You know what I mean?
I mean, it would be a news story. It would be a news. It would just be like
would it? Have you ever seen a long form video make news?
Not really. Well, I mean, from like as far as just any sort of like actual actual footage of real people, kind of immediately.
No, but I'm not talking about the last 10 minutes. I'm talking about Schindler's List,
the actual
movie.
Right, sure.
Like, I feel like it'd be a fart in a turd factory if that movie was a YouTube video. Like,
of course,
it's like one of the most like. Probably I would say the most popular Holocaust movie. Definitely up there.
It's a top 5 most important movies that has ever been made. Like the actual like importance of it is kind of completely transcends all that.
And I think that like that just could not exist. Like, but the thing is that somebody could have already done it. Somebody already could have uploaded some Schindler List type thing on YouTube. But like, how do you find it? Where is it? Like. You know what I mean?
Low budget Schindler's List. We did it all in color.
But like, I don't know. It's just like a weird thing. It's like, it's hard to imagine that anything that is of value finding a significant voice on a platform like that. Yeah. I think that's why it needs to be like gatekept a little bit. And I think there is good gatekeeping too. There is like gaping, like you could say, I'm gonna. Like, it's Pride Month, and I'm gonna only do movie screenings of LGBT movies. Like, you're definitely gatekeeping movies that are not that, but it's to the value of raising something else up, right?
Bringing more attention to something that probably wouldn't get that attention without it.
That's kind of what I mean. That's not kind of, that is what I mean by gatekeeping, is that there needs to be like obligations of what gets through. And then once the good stuff is in, then you curate that really good stuff. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you say like, oh, like this is a headliner for sure. Like if you're making a film festival, you know what I mean? And it was just like just for Pride, then the gatekeeping is made sure that only, those types of movies got into that festival.
Yeah.
And then the curation is like, all right, what's the best avenue for each of these to get the spotlight they deserve, you know? Like, how can we get the people that need to see this movie to see this movie? And like that mythology like cannot exist online.
Of course not. And see, my instinct with that is like, oh, of course, yeah, show it in like, have that festival or that film festival in San Francisco, New York City, or wherever. And it's like, nope, those probably should definitely be in the Midwest. And all the places where like they're opposite like bigots of that, that shit, you know? That would be like a more important approach to it. Is all like that. That's like what the point of that.
But also, like I met this chick in Oklahoma, and she actually had no idea. Like I mean, I'm not transgender, so I like don't want to speak to like the experience of it. But
I don't know about that.
But like she always knew that she wanted to be a certain way.
Sure.
But she actually didn't know at all what transgender was. Like she couldn't quantify it in her brain because living in Oklahoma, that didn't exist at all. You know what I mean?
Oh my god.
And she like learned that term and everything while.
But she is what you're saying. She is transgender. Okay.
She is transgender, and so but she didn't ever think of like. There was never like, how do I ask my doctor this? How do I do that? Like none of that existed. You know what I mean?
Oh my god.
At all. Until that came up. You know what I mean? So I think that if you were to do something like that, like make like a film festival like that in the Midwest or something like that, that psychology of how people who go to those things would experience them would matter so much to like a movie in that played in there, or any kind of art form at all that spoke and somehow could express something that was like underexpressed or whatever, like, would have a huge impact. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's what content can't do. You know what I mean? Like, content can't create that ripple, that wave. You know what I mean?
100%. And because that being shown to somebody in that region of our nation, they would write it off as, it's just a.
But it has to
just a little fucking TikTok video.
But it also has because it has to be shown in a way that's like meaningful. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that I shouldn't say never, but I have a hard time believing that like somebody sent you like, hey, you should check out this video, and then they like change their views on like cops killing black people. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't know that that's really like how that works. I think
the only thing it does is make that conversation extend, like make that the two opposing parties extend the conversation, because it's literally falling into the messy tidal wave of just there's countless there are too many of those clips like that, as opposed to something like, I don't know, literally any Spike Lee movie or whatever, or anything like that. That like he's literally dedicated his career to making films that talk about the treatment of black people in the world, in their country.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like a complete opposite of that in that way. I'm really fascinated just as much as I'm frustrated by all these things, though, and I'm
mostly just frustrated.
I'm always frustrated. Well, what I'm fascinated by is like the one thing that I will say is like very interesting. I don't want to say it's important or that it's good or bad or whatever. What I do find interesting is like there is this whole wave of people that are like, you have like everyone trying to be creative constantly, whether they're actually putting that much work into it or that much time into it is a whole other thing. But the cool thing is that like, and what's kind of annoying as well is like anything that anybody thinks of is just immediately like put out there. Anything that's like it goes from thought to code on the internet.
That is the worst.
So fucking fast.
I think that's also like a major problem with studios. I think that's why movie studios. I mean, I only keep bringing up movies because like that's the only thing I know. But like,
no, of course.
But I think it applies to like.
But that's just content.
Yeah, I think it applies to a lot of different art forms. But that like they don't lead with their like a new idea anymore, right? Because everybody is so afraid of somebody else doing it. Like even in like nonfiction filmmaking, like a lot of times it's like you have like somebody like Sean Penn that will like immediately go to like Palestine or something like that. Like, and it's like weird and like kind of like exploitative feeling sometimes, you know, like with like people like him that are like, you know, you're kind of just like a rich white guy going there, and like you always got to like blowhorn like the same thing all the time. Doesn't feel like genuine, you know. Which actually I would say that's in that kind of situation too. That a lot of the stuff that you see on the line, maybe not artful, but like as far as from like a non-fiction point of view, like as impact and like value, like how important it is, like a lot of that kind of stuff is way more effective on the internet, right?
Everyone is a self-produced documentary.
Yeah, but like, what's her name? Bisan, like the woman that like the Palestinian woman that like post, like she used to post on TikTok all the time, and like, you know, because she lived in Gaza and stuff like that. It's like that kind of like I don't know if I would call it content or like art, because it's like really not either. It is like a level of like, it's journalism, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
But even though I don't know if she was a journalist or not, but anyways, my point is that's where it could be. That's where that's like an example of it being actually really effective. But to your original point was that like the hunger for just being the first and like capitalizing on whatever that is, like the moment, the money, like any of that, like that's what all of them do all the time, and there's no room to like make something. Like it's like almost impossible to be artful if your only intention is to be the first person. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's like these people that like make like whatever trash music, not to like make music, but to become famous. And they know that if they can keep doing this to get one catchy thing, then they can ride the coattails of that. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of like studios and stuff, that's what they do too. They just like make deals with like how like Mattel years ago, and I think what was the other one? Hasbro. They just like basically said, all right, here's like 10 intellectual properties. Here's G.I. Joe, Transformers, Power Rangers, whatever, right? Like, license them all. I think Mattel actually licensed to like different studios, so I think that's why Warner Brothers was it that made Barbie. But But then there's like
sure they did.
There's another Mattel property that's like made by another studio, like whatever.
So it's like scattered.
So it's like scattered because like all it is to be like, you know, movies based on toys are gonna be popular. So like let's get them all out there right now.
That's a timing thing because the kids are still into them, and their parents and possibly their grandparents like were into it at some point. Like G.I. Joe and Barbie and all that shit's been around since our parents were children.
And like, did you see the Transformers Rise of the Beast movie? Can I spoil?
Yeah, dude, no, don't spoil the new don't spoil the new Transformers movie, dude.
All right, well,
is Shia LaBeouf back in it?
No. So at the end, Anthony Ramos, like the lead guy, I don't remember what his character's name is, but he so he does the whole Transformers. It's like the stupidest thing even thinking about it. So dumb.
The guy from fucking Avengers. Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
The guy with the big hair. Am I thinking of somebody else?
No.
The son. He plays the son. That's right. Yeah, I saw him recently.
Okay, so he's like the lead, right? So he does the whole Transformers adventure, the whole movie. Then somebody comes with me. He's like, hey, you know, I'm from like whatever special organization. I think we got a job for you. Basically, is the scene, right? And he hands him a card, and he looks at it, and it says G.I. Joe. And so he's gonna get recruited into the G.I. Joe after doing this Transformers thing, right?
Oh my god!
And so
Mattel multiverse.
Yeah, so now it's the Hasbro multiverse, but like
Hasbro, yeah.
I think it's Hasbro. No, I don't know. No, I think it's Hasbro because Mattel is Barbie, right?
No fucking idea.
Anyways, but just the idea that like they need to like announce that at the end of this movie because everything needs to be like leapfrog for the other one, right? We can't just like have like this movie be standalone and be its own thing. We have to make sure that we're already got claws into the next thing. You know what I mean?
Marvel kind of, I don't want to say they started that, but they essentially with their MCU, they're the reason why everything's got to connect to everything at this point, which I fucking hate.
I mean,
because it just creates inconsistencies. Like the problem with that shit is like you can't guarantee that any of the actors or any of the people working on it are going to be those same people down the line. Yeah, and then they basically might as well be their own universes and their own movies.
It's not. Maybe there's some nerd out there that's gonna like be like, you know, whatever, like strict about it. I would say that for all intents and purposes, Marvel did invent the connected universe, but I know like Tarantino like invented the thing of like all his movies are like
kind of same worlds,
the kind of the same world type of thing, and like the same like brand of cigarettes exists in all of them and like stuff like that, you know. And I know Kevin Smith
nods to each movie and like little Easter egg. Well, actually, and they like Pixar actually I think did it first. Pixar probably,
but those are like Easter eggs. But like they like mention names of characters in other Tarantino movies.
You're kidding? I didn't.
Yeah, like there's something like the Vega brothers or something like that. Like mentioned in another movie. It's like they're not really connected, and like it doesn't actually like you know affect anything.
But just bring some sort of reality.
I think some like, you know, pedantic, you know, nerd would like whatever. And I know like Kevin Smith, like technically they're like connected. You know, his movies like the
Jay and Silent Bob series,
View Askew-averse or whatever it's called. But yeah, but I think it's even less about just like, that's just like following a trend, right? Making them a connected thing. I think it's the need to always be like on the next thing, like immediately. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's no time. Like, I don't think any executive in the last like 10 years has ever sat down with their team and been like, all right, you know, what if we run into the ground these days? Let's not do that anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think, like, anybody's ever...
Dude, I don't know. I loved the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies within, like, 10 years of the Andrew Garfield, within 10 years of the Tobey Maguire. Yeah. You know? Like, so, I was the biggest diehard Spider-Man fan, and now I fucking hate it. I liked Star Wars, and now I fucking hate it. Like, just how much it's in the culture still, and how they don't really have anything new to make, and they're just.
I don't think I hate it. I think it's hard for me to get excited about it.
Like Harry Potter as well. Like, I will never watch Fantastic Beasts. I will never watch.
See, but I've seen them all in theaters.
Oh my god, dude! You're such a dedicated fucking cinephile. Like, you are such a dedicated fucking.
I think it's just because I have a sickness that I just like, dude. I saw Fast 10.
Like, that's amazing.
Like Fast 10 is so bad.
That's so amazing though that you actually go to see him in theaters.
Help it.
That's but is it because it's been like that you've created this like not only a habit, but is it just does it affect your viewing? Because I've noticed that with myself. If I'm watching something in theaters, it's a completely different experience than when I'm watching it at home. Like, I actually almost thought Dunkirk was a good movie when I watched it in theaters.
What? That's crazy.
No, dude, I think okay. It's
Dunkirk's like one of Nolan's best movies, I think.
It's okay. It's a very like the pacing of it is like kind of off to me.
That's
like,
what I love about it.
It's kind of
I love
how
it's like slow and silent. It's amazing.
I mean, I thought the intro was fucking incredible. Like when the bombs are dropping and they're all like, but the all I mean by that is like, yeah, like
I like Tom Hardy landing the plane. That's probably my favorite scene.
Yeah, there's some, but then it's also got Kenneth Branagh. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
He's fine too. I'm totally fucking around. Dunkirk is not a bad movie by any means, but what I mean is watching it in theaters made me feel differently, experiencing it that way than in hindsight. Like in hindsight, I like think about the movie and I'm kind of like, it's just like who cares? It's like, I think who cares?
I think it's because people. Not you, I guess, necessarily. Maybe you. But it's like you underestimate how valuable it is to watch something in the format it is intended for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is like, they mix on like... Well, I mean, I don't know if you saw it in Dolby, but like, they mix it with the Dolby Atmos system to be played in a Dolby Atmos system. Do you know what I mean? Like
all movies or Dunkirk in particular, maybe?
Well, I mean, I guess if it's like in Dolby, if it's like it has a little Dolby sign, whatever. And like color timing and all that stuff, like they're watching it on a projector that at the very least has similar, specs to the one you're gonna be watching it. Like they want to watch while they're mixing and mastering it. They want to see it how the audience is going to see it, like that as one-to-one as possible, right? Seeing it in the format it's intended for, in the best format possible, is like everything. You know what I mean? It's like it's the difference between listening to like on $5,000 studio monitors versus playing it through your phone speaker. You know what I mean? Like
it's true.
You're not going to listen to that and be like, I mean, the song's okay. Like if that's the only time you've ever heard it, you're not listening. There's like frequencies you're not even getting out of it. You know what I mean? You're missing whole
hearing
parts.
Something without bass. I mean, my car doesn't really have decent bass in it, and it's kind of like I have to listen to stuff that I've listened to a lot so that I'm not like, because I love listening to music so much, I don't want that to affect like my first listen through of something. I don't want that to affect like the way I feel listening to something for the first time. So like the way things are presented, the way all this stuff is.
So that just goes to show you how much Fast 10 sucks, because I saw it in the best possible format and it was almost unwatchable.
Did you see it with family though, dude? I think that no, but that's wild, man. That's like that's amazing. That like I have such admiration that you do that, because I am so I am such a like spoiled, like I'm what am I trying to say? Like it's like one of those things. If
you're a glutton for convenience.
No, not even that. No, it's not the convenience of watching something. It's like unless I really want to watch something in theaters. And granted, there have been countless movies that I wanted to watch in theaters. I just never got to. And unless I went to go see it with you, I don't really know anybody else that would want to go. And maybe my girlfriend too. Like I think she's the only person I've gone to see movie. I watched Barbie and Oppenheimer with her last year in theaters, and I think those are the only movies I've seen in theaters for a while. That and Jackass Forever. Or whatever. So
I didn't remember the last movie I saw with like that. I went with someone.
With someone? Oh man,
can't remember what it was.
That's the thing is I love.
Might have been like 1917 when I went with Bob.
Oh man, that movie is so good. Yeah. See, like that is a really good.
I think I saw it like 2 or 3 times in the movie.
Oh, that movie is really good in theaters.
Because I watched it in Dolby and I was like, I knew Bob would love that movie, so I took him to see it just because like he'll never see a movie in Dolby ever again, but. That was like the one. That's like a tech demo. That movie, you know.
Oh, dude, it's so
good.
As much as that, like, it's such a shtick or such a like like a little a bit of a peacock move, making a whole movie in one shot.
Yeah.
I love when it's really done. I think Birdman did it really well. There's also, I think the first movie to ever do it was like a Russian movie from the 90s or 2000s. And what was cool about that one is they had a sequence go from outside to inside, and they had to do a very specific thing to the camera because of the temperature changes.
Oh, yeah.
So they had to, like, literally hit it with, like, air conditioning or something like that, like, as it was coming, so that the fucking lens wouldn't... Yeah.
You ever see Victoria? That was actually shot in one take.
Whoa. How long is it? As long as the movie?
I don't know, an hour and a half.
But it was actually, actually...
Like, they shot it
wow.
in one... Well, it, like, starts off at night, and then, like, it's sunrise by the end.
Damn. Was that a recent movie or older?
I mean, not like old, like 2000 something.
Victoria is what it's called?
I think it's like a Swedish movie, maybe, or Norwegian movie or something like that. I don't know.
Maybe that's the one I'm thinking of, and I just forgot. I confused some
European
country with another.
It's not that old.
Okay.
But it's an actual like one take movie. Like
that's cool.
They actually like just handed off the camera. Like the whole thing is one take. Like not like 1917 that has like a bunch of hidden cuts.
Right.
And one actual cut, but.
Yeah, well, I mean, the one, because when everything goes black for a second, they probably, like, were able to breathe for a second. Yeah. What I find interesting is...
You know, like, the longest single take on the entire of 1917 is, like, 2 minutes something. Like,
you're kidding. Like, all that's just edited?
Yeah.
Like Sam Mendes doing his thing?
But just think about every 2 to 3 minutes, there's a cut in that movie. Isn't that crazy?
I didn't know that. Yeah. I know they had a bunch of problems with the guy lighting the cigarette with the Zippo lighter in the very beginning, and I think they had to do that sequence like 20 times because the fucking lighter wouldn't light or some shit like that. What now? We've definitely like gone a little off the topic of art.
How long do you want this to be?
Oh, we're almost at fucking 2 hours here, man. This is fucking awesome.
You should cut it. You should edit it.
Maybe.
At least do like part 1 and part 2, bro. Nobody's gonna watch this. I mean, nobody's gonna watch it anyways.
You'd be surprised, man. Because people just throw this on in the background and listen to it for a long time. We can wrap this up though. My like while we're on that topic of like, you know, these specific like approaches to filmmaking. Do you think that these movies, or like for example, Boyhood or the Before series, like where
I hate Boyhood.
I know. That's why I brought it up. Do you think that these, and I love this, one of my favorite movies of all time, but do you think that the approach from a production standpoint is why it's good, or is that separate from the quality? I mean, obviously that's not what makes it good if you don't like Boyhood, but there are so many people that will argue like, oh, just because it's approached a certain way or just because it's done in that certain way doesn't make it automatically good. But to me, it's like, no, that I can't help but feel like, no, it does, because it's such dedication from all of them. Like, Boyhood was like a decade-long contract those actors had to have with them, and everyone had to stay alive, and everyone had to... And see, the main reason why I think that movie is so good is because it's so opposite of what we're used to seeing, and so not a story... Like, it isn't a story. It's just a sequence of scenes in this character's life, which in and of itself is a story. And it goes against... I love that it's like an opposite approach to how movies are, where there's no like climax, there's no big shift, it's just life. Like, life is not a movie, as far as like there aren't big events that happen. That's like what I got from the movie is all. Is like the only approach that they were trying to make is like these people are existing and we're watching them exist, and it's just it's like, to me, the number one slice of life movie that exists.
I think it's
easily.
I think I understand the ambition of it, but I almost think that story or lack of story that you're saying would have been more impressive if it wasn't done that way, because then it's like the intention is to, like, say in 6 to 8 weeks make that, to me, is more impressive than stretching it out for 10 years, right? Because I think if you are stretching something out for 10 years, then I want to see you make a story out of 10 years, over the course of 10 years. Like, I want to see that to me was make it compelling. You know what I mean?
But it was more so like that wasn't the point of it. I feel like it was like a series of vignettes and like mini stories within this grand.
But then to me, I don't understand what the point of stretching it out that long was. If you're
just honestly just because it's cool seeing the actors age in one one movie,
like
that is cool. Like no one's ever done that.
Yeah, but that's not cool. That's not cool if you don't do anything with it. You know what I mean?
But they didn't have to is the thing. Like that's like what I liked about it is they didn't have to.
I know, but if they didn't have to, and then they turned that into some, like if you said we're gonna make Castaway, right, with Tom Hanks, and in the movie Tom Hanks is on the island, say for 5 years, so we're gonna film the first half here and the second half 5 years later. That to me makes it more meaningful because you're now building something into the story of this. If the idea is just, it's just Tom Hanks living on a slice of life, Tom Hanks living on an island for 6 weeks, and you just happen to shoot it over 5 years, it's meaningless to me. Like, why did you spend all that time? That was pointless. Like, you're not taking it to do anything. Like, I guess on some level, it's cool to see this kid was 5 and now he's 10, but he's not doing anything when he's 10. It's just, here he's 10 now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I get and this is what I like. That's probably my favorite thing about the movie, though, is that like the opposing, like the divisive reaction and response to it is like I thought it was so genius for like it's nuanced, like nothing nothing big happening. I think that was like my favorite part of it because it was just.
But I feel like
it wasn't about.
But you could do that. To me, it would be what would be more exciting in that sense. Would be like come up with a creative way to age people over the course of 10 years. Like show me a kid growing up, but problem solve all of those steps. Like, you know what I mean? It'd be like if I said to you, all right, we need to have one actor and we need to age him from 5 to 15. Okay? And I gave you that problem. The more compelling solution is that we have to shoot this movie in 9 weeks. If you say, oh, you want to make a movie where you have the same actor from 5 to 15, well then let's just wait 10 years and he'll be 15. That's inherently less interesting to me because you're just waiting for time to pass and then you've solved the problem.
I get what you mean, but it was like a year, like maybe a couple weeks of shooting every year, so it was just like a yearly thing that they were doing on that. But
like, what are they shooting a couple weeks every year? Nothing, bro. Like,
no, they have a different section of what's happening in the main character's life.
I get that, yeah. But I'm saying like, to me, it would be so much more interesting if this was like a really strong narrative that had to go. If this was like a post-apocalyptic movie that took the course of 10 years, and it's like, here's like, oh, now he's built this house, and now and here's how he's upgraded his defenses, and here's how he's like.
You wanted bigger shifts to happen between each year, is what you're saying.
I'm just saying that if this is the gimmick you're going with, you want to shoot this movie over the course of 10 years, it's far more compelling to do something over those 10 years than just to say, here's this person at 5, here's this person at 7, here's this person at 9, here's this person at 10, right? But like in each of those moments, it shouldn't even be about the moments. It should just be about the overall story. Is that there's change, but it's not. You're spending all this time and effort to do this gimmick, and you're just kind of like letting it happen. Like I feel like you're not really taking so much advantage of it. Whatever, you can do whatever you want. If that's the movie you wanted to make.
Yeah, see, why don't we put ourselves in Richard Linklater's shoes? If that was the idea that he wanted, if he made if he tried to create it in a way that the narrative had its own thing separate from that, I honestly think the reason that he didn't do that, and it makes total sense, is he probably wanted to diminish the possibility of complications and things not making sense. If he had created some sort of story or some sort of like point A to point B thing, he would have had to run it. He would have ran into constant like issues with continuity or things that he would have had to.
That's good though.
Things, but like
that's what makes it. But
it would have dug him into a corner. It would have put him into a place.
That's the whole point of doing the gimmick, though.
I get what you mean. Like it's one of those things. Like, oh, could they have done more with it? Probably. But
dude, that's like in Breaking Bad when like the writers would talk about, we wrote this scenario where Walter White does this without ever knowing how to get him out of it. That challenge, backing yourself into the corner, is the interesting thing.
Sure.
That's what makes it interesting.
I get
that. Is that having to keep all of those plates spinning for 10 years would have been far more interesting to me than just being like, all right, it's going to be really hard to keep all those plates spinning, so let's just make the story this. Then it's like, well, then you don't need to do this over 10 years.
But I get it. I get everything that you're saying. Yeah. To me, it literally comes down to, well, it's not that kind of movie. It just comes down to like it, because he feels like he has done that with other, the Before series, and like he has done that where
but then
they're aging and there is some significance.
But to me, I just that isn't the movie he wanted to make, and I get that. But then I'm like, well, then why do you want to make the movie this way? Like, what's the point? What's the intention?
Like, is it that the gimmick is the movie and that there is no movie outside of it? Is that how you feel? Is that what you mean, or is it like...
I think it's like a little bit raising the gimmick above the gimmick is more than the movie. Like, I think that's the problem with Tenet too. Like Christopher Nolan's Tenet.
Sure, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Is that the gimmick of filming somebody like doing hand-to-hand combat with somebody going in reverse and the other person going in forward? That gimmick and just the whole reverse time thing in general is so above whatever the movie is trying to say or do that it makes the movie really boring. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like there's no real scene or character in Tenet that is that compelling, and I think it's because the premise, the concept of just making it, was so all-consuming, and that they didn't do anything with. Like that actually would have been a great movie to basically be about nothing, and then have that gimmick in it, and at least it would have felt like real people or something to connect with, something to be like, I don't need some high concept storyline to like make this visual gimmick work. You know what I mean? Like I don't care about anything in the movie.
Just to jump back to what we started, where this topic of conversation started. This right here is the difference between art and content. Is we spent the last how long were we just talking about those fucking movies, and all those are pieces of art. They inspired us. They inspired a dialogue between us. They made us talk about them. They made us have an extent. Boyhood is to me a really important achievement if it made us talk about that for that long, or if that's like I love that.
There's that great line in Spider-Verse, but I can't remember what's it called. Is it called Across the Spider-Verse? The second one?
The new one, yeah.
Yeah, Across the Spider-Verse, where
the John Lennon song, right?
Yeah. The Da Vinci drawing comes in from the Falcon. I forget what the Spider-Man villain's name is, whatever. But the Falcon from the Da Vinci world comes in at the very beginning. It's the very beginning fight, and they're in a museum, and they knock something over, and the Da Vinci guy is like, that's art. And she goes, we're talking about it, aren't we? And like, that is like basically the exact same thing that you're saying, is that like, if it has enough meat or substance to warrant a conversation, then at least it has intention at the very least,
Well, I mean, that's like the only thing that should spawn out of it to me. That's like the only important thing is, are people talking about it years and years down the line?
Yeah.
Like we don't
the merits of it, not just saying like, oh, that movie was really funny. Yeah.
Like, why was it important? Why was it this like achievement or some sort of like,
or something that moved you?
Important. Well, a lot of like comedies of like back in the day, like 50, 60 years ago with Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder, all those were social commentaries just as much as they were satire and comedic. Like all of Blazing Saddles is literally like still relevant today.
Yeah.
Still very important to talk, like, as far as what the topic. I'm just curious, by the way, does your gum have any flavor anymore?
Dude, I'll chew the same piece of gum for like 8-10 hours
a day. Oh my god. That's fucking amazing.
I've chewed a piece of, I forget what I was doing, some work event, but I chewed this one piece of gum for so long, it like couldn't hold itself together anymore. It like started to dissolve and then I spit it out.
Oh my god, man. Just like you did with Boyhood when you didn't appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
Boyhood couldn't sustain me that long.
No, only for 3 hours. Yeah,
Yeah.
But that I fucking love talking about that stuff, and I love divisive things in art more than anything else.
Yeah.
I love that. A lot of my favorite movies are super like people either love or hate them.
Yeah.
Like I think
I also shouldn't say that I hate Boyhood. I think it's a little harsh.
No,
I just feel like it's like
you're surprised it was as popular as it was.
I feel like there's nothing interesting about it.
I get you. I remember like when I first saw it and we were talking about that because I think we were literally like when that came out in 2014.
Yeah.
We were recording my EP when,
Oh, yeah.
and I remember coming into the studio
God,
and talking
10
years ago, man.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Look where we are now. Fuck yeah. It's like I think that's the main important difference between content versus art or whatever. Anything artistic can be talked about and consistently talked about for a long time.
Yeah.
You can get a group of people that are all fans of something like The Matrix or whatever,
Yeah.
and they will all have a different take, not a different take on it, but they'll all have different opinions on it. They'll all have different theories about it, whatever you want to call it. Like they'll all have a completely different perspective. To me, it's like if it creates some sort of perspective and it creates a nice variety of things to talk about. That's the only important part of it, man. Like without inspiring a dialogue, who gives a shit? It's literally like all I think about. If people aren't talking about it when all is said and done, and people aren't like fans of it, despite it being like, I mean, we were talking about Jaws a little while back, and the movie's like 50 years old. Like,
Yeah.
fucking so long ago that shit came out, and it's still like one of the most important pieces of cinema, and one of the most important films to me, just because of how I personally love how much of
Jaws got us in the mess of the blockbuster that we're in right now, actually. So.
Yeah, but like, I think if that movie wasn't such a clusterfuck, just like a lot of those movies at that time and in general, like a lot of the biggest movies and shit are horrible, like processes. Like I think that is what makes me have that much more respect for it.
Yeah.
That it was like the biggest headache, probably like the most frustrating movie Spielberg has ever made, ever. And
but that's
was
like
worth it. It was
that's
worth
the perfect example of intention and process to me.
Yeah.
Because it's like he knew exactly what kind of movie he wanted to make and how he wanted to make it, and then once what his intended process for it fell apart, he still tried to remain as artful with it as possible. Like the whole reason why at the end of the movie you don't see the shark that often, it's just the barrels going through the water, is because they just couldn't get the shark to work.
Right.
And so he had to figure out a way visually, so that I think there's a scene.
So that's why the barrels exist at all.
Yeah, that's why that's why the barrels get stuck like on him.
Yeah.
And that's how you see it, how you can track him. And it's because like he stuck to his intention and created a process that like fulfilled that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He didn't just have like reactions to nothing, being like, oh, he's over there, like something like that. Like,
right.
They didn't do like the laziest way out, or he still like tried to make it work to his intended vision, which honestly might have been better. It might have ended up better. Who knows if like the movie would have been as good if he got if everything went his way exactly. You know what I mean? Maybe it was the challenges that made him grow and like expand upon it, make something better.
I mean, talk about rolling with the punches, man. Talk about like working with what you have and just going. All those actors like had a weird tension between them too. Like Roy Scheider and Robert Shaw like ganged up on Richard Dreyfuss. There's a lot of like just like bullshit like headache shit going on. And I'm amazed at him or anybody that's able to, like you said, the intention and not let that affect what he wanted to get out of it. And I think it was a blessing in disguise. I think that movie would suck if we saw the shark the entire time.
Yeah,
it wouldn't suck. It just wouldn't be as interesting because
I think
the lack of seeing.
I think what we got became so iconic that it doesn't even matter whether or not it would have been better the other way. Yeah. Like, it's just like it was just perfect how it came out. You know what I mean? I think the same thing is true with like probably all his movies, but like even like Jurassic Park, like when the T-Rex wouldn't work sometimes, and like the shots that we get in a lot of those movies, like I mean nowadays it's like if it doesn't work they just like use CGI, and so it always works. You know what I mean? It's just whether or not we get like because I also know like in Gladiator they were gonna do some kind of rhino scene, like an animatronic rhino, but that
I could see that.
But that scene was gonna cost like $10 million just itself.
Oh my god!
So they just ended up cutting the whole thing, and so it's just like him with the tigers.
It's so important to scrap things that aren't working and aren't worth the effort. But
nowadays they would never do that. Now it'd just be like, oh well, it's too expensive to do with the animatronics, so we're gonna do it like this way, you know. But I think in those like 80s and 90s or 70s, 80s, 90s, like when those like big budget like the summer movies started becoming a thing, I think it was like you just kind of got the shots that you got, you know what I mean? Like whatever worked in that moment, like whatever shots of the T-Rex you could get, and like get a few takes, and all of it's shot on film too, by the way. So like you have an actual finite amount of like
frames that you can use.
That you can use, right?
Oh
like,
my god!
All of that contributed to something like so much more special. I was actually
100%. But same thing for like Alien. Like Alien, have you ever seen that deleted scene of like it like walking? It was like a dog in the alien costume or something like that, and they cut it because it looks like fucking shit.
Yeah,
and that's just another example of like the lack of
and
seeing
even
it
like
helps.
Alien and Aliens too.
Yeah.
Those are great examples of like there's only so much you can show of that. You know what I mean? Because it's like you start to see the seams really quickly. So it's. So the shots that they do show are the ones that work, you know? Yeah. Did you see that I posted? Oh yeah, you did, because you replied to one. But on Instagram, for the people that don't know, on Instagram I posted, I found this 2-hour home video.
Oh man, I was so invested in that shit, your updates on that.
Bro, can I tell you that I'm not even kidding, it might have been the best movie I've seen all year. Like,
oh my god. Some random family.
Yeah, so basically what it is it's a bunch of 8mm film that at some point was transferred to VHS, and then that VHS was transferred to a DVD. And I found the DVD at the thrift shop, and I bought it. But I would say it starts off in the late 60s and ends like in the early 80s. Like, because I would say by the end, the boy that's born at the beginning is like 16, 17.
Holy shit.
At the end, I would say. And I would say his sister's probably like 4 years older than him, so she's maybe like 20, 21. And dude, the way that it, first of all, it ends with this boy being born. Like it's
I just want to say before I forget, you like that, but you don't like Boyhood.
Yeah. Okay, but like this is the perfect example because first of all, this is real. Bro.
Yeah, right.
This is actual nonfiction.
But you don't know that. No, I'm just kidding.
Like imagine spending all of this time. Like this is like actually the perfect thing because what Boyhood did was basically say we're gonna do this on purpose, but we're actually not gonna put anything interesting in it. Like we're purposefully doing this, and nothing compelling, nothing significant will ever happen. Like that's what's insane. This movie is actual life, and there are, I wouldn't say there's ups and downs, because basically what it is that it's just a bunch of 8mm footage. So there's no audio. It's just totally silent.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And 8mm reels are small. You only get like a few minutes. I don't know if it was like a Super 8 camera or not, because I don't know like when those became popular. So every clip is just like somebody filming for like maybe a minute. Like 60 seconds would be a long time. So it's like a bunch of series of clips. So it's like showing somebody opening a present on Christmas, and then it shows this person. Like it's just like, it's not like today, like on a phone where people just like hold, do like 4 or 5 minutes of clips at a time. Like even the clips that we just did of that blood test,
it's too long to send in a message. A minute long clip.
Those clips are longer than anything that's in those entire 2 hours, right? So basically, what it is that it starts off with this boy being born, or he had just been born, because it's like at the hospital, like, you know, when they're all like in the bins,
Shit.
you know, and it shows all the thing. It's like the perfect. Like, I swear to God, if it wasn't in chronological order, I would have thought somebody would have just like purposefully edited it this way, and maybe there was a little intention in it, because it ends with this boy being born, and then it shows a lot of it's of him, but he has an older sister who's probably like 4 or 5, I'm guessing, when he's born. And then it's just their life. Like, a lot of it's Christmas, because obviously this was like a camera that they took to special occasions. But like, there was like birthdays, and they have a flooded basement one year, and there's, I guess, one of them got into a car wreck, and so they filmed like the car, you know, for like the damage on the car. And just like a bunch of different life events, and then it ends at the end with the sister, and she's like in the hospital having her own baby.
Oh my god! Alright,
dude,
wow,
it's crazy. And what's also crazy is that the last, so it's like 2 hours, right? Because it was like basically saved exactly, like, I think like 2 hour limit was on the tape. So the last 30, maybe 20 minutes. Really like big time jumps, because it was obviously their 8mm, like the dad, maybe 8mm camera that he would primarily be using. Like, pretty much nobody else used it.
Yeah.
Because there's very few clips of the dad himself. And then
we appreciate you, Dad.
Yeah, you could just tell at some point, like, he just wasn't into using it anymore. Maybe they got a camcorder or something like that, and so the 8mm just didn't get used as often. So it goes from like him being like the boy at the beginning being like 5, and then it's like, next clip you see, he's like 10, you know? And then he's like 13. So then at the end, they're like, he's like a teenager, you know? He's like, looks like almost like an adult.
It's so ridiculous. It's so crazy.
And so, but it's crazy to think that like she was having her baby and was like, oh, we should grab, you know, like that old camera that we used to film, like, you know, because we have, you know, whatever, Jason's being born on that, we should film it on the same thing, you know? And like that's I feel like that's the conversation that happened, you know?
There's something like that. That's fucking incredible, by the way. That's like incredible you get to see all.
I can't believe I found it.
I mean, that's fucking weird. It's weird that you're able to like find that though in a thrift store. Like, did they just like have that and then give it away? Like,
well, actually,
did they give it to someone as a present and that person gave it away?
At first, I thought it was from 2003. Like, I thought, but I think the insert that they used, like the video to DVD service, I think that the insert they used was just like, they just never updated it. Because actually printed on the disc, it also says 2003, but it also says 2011, like on the little label part. So I'm thinking maybe they got it transferred in 2011. And to me, that means, I feel like the whole 2 hours is like, everybody's a ghost at this point. Like, I think that if anybody is living from that video, it's probably...
They could be alive.
I feel like it'd be the son, daughter, and then the baby that's born at the end, right?
Yeah, all the parents are probably gone if they... I mean, what, the parents are maybe in their 30s and the 60s? So they'd be born in like the... Yeah. They were born in like the 1930s.
They'd be like 80.
Yeah, they'd be like, really up there, yeah.
They'd be very high.
They just come fucking bursting through your door saying, like, I want my fucking tape, my CD, my DVD.
But, so, I think, since even 2011... Since that's so long ago, I would imagine that it was probably just in a box that was labeled DVDs, and probably a lot of those other movies were just in there, like the ones at the thrift shop were also in there, and they just never looked at it. Like, maybe somebody just died or something, then they just got rid of it. Because like, even to have something since 2011, like, who's watching their 8mm home video on DVD in 2011? Like, probably not that many people. You know what I mean?
Or I have stuff from my early iPhones that's like about it as far as all any sort of...
But like, smartphones were already a thing and stuff by 2011, so it's probably just forgotten about. They probably don't even know that they donated.
Now, is something like that art or content is the question? That's like a weird in between.
I mean, the way that it affected me, I feel like it's art.
It's totally art.
No, actually, to be real, I would not consider it art, because my personal definition of art, because it does not have the intention or the process. It happened. I think that 8mm film, or just like film, like those limitations in general, will always be more conducive to something being more palatable, more watchable, more more cohesive, right? Because like if you're only going to shoot 30, 40, 50 seconds at a time, is going to be more. There's going to be more, and it's like the same event, like a Christmas morning or something like that. There's going to be more cohesion to that inherently than like 5 really drawn out clips. Like that's going to be so much harder to watch. You know what I mean? Like if it's like iPhone video of like somebody opening something for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes, then it's going to cut to somebody cutting a cake. Like those long stretches like will make it really difficult to watch. I think it's just by coincidence or by the inherent method of like what 8mm film is.
Yeah, the pacing
and
the
like,
forcing it to be paced.
Yeah,
so like quick.
It just makes it feel more artful, but there was no intention. Like in 1968, they didn't know that they were gonna like have all these clips randomly compiled into a VHS and then transferred to DVD. Right. You know what I mean? There's like no intention to it. It's impactful because...
I was about to say the way that it affected you, though.
Because it is, like, it's human life. Like, it is the true story of human life. You know what I mean? Like, there's something always going to be inherently relatable or special about that. You know what I mean? And of a time that is, like, so far gone. Like, nobody shoots 8mm film anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
it's like finding any sort of old media in like a dumpster or something. Not in a dumpster, but it's like finding anything that's like completely
and like, bro,
dead tech.
To get the Christmas they had, like if you had a wife and 2 kids, 2 young kids, like 4 or 5 and 1, you would literally need to be making like $150,000 a year minimum to give them the Christmas that I saw these people get in like 1970. You know what I mean?
Holy shit.
So it's like, it seems so like alien. And there's like, my point is that there's just like a lot adding to it to make it feel like cinema. And like, it has the illusion of art, but like, I personally would not call it art. I think that art could very easily be made from it.
Can you make art unintentionally? Definitely. Like,
can you though?
Can you? Yeah, definitely.
I don't know.
Because a lot of times it's contextual. It's the story behind it. It's the...
I don't know if I believe
like,
it though.
But like, look
like, what are you calling by accident though?
Photographers that take pictures of very like big like moments historically, and then it becomes like a prize winning.
But I would say like
those photographers that take pictures of like people that are dying or people that you know what I mean.
Yeah,
like those. That's
like
I mean,
that is intentional.
It isn't. Yeah, I mean,
I'm saying that like if you were like swinging a camera behind your back and it accidentally releases the shutter and you happen to get this 1 in a million shot, like that level of accident, I don't know that I call that art. I think it's just an accident.
I see that. I just don't. I mean, again, the problem with that word in and of itself is like everything is art. Like you could say that like people.
But that goes back to the language barrier. Is that like
the issues with that?
Everything is art because we use art to define
everything.
Art means you made this. You know what I mean? Like, but I think my definition of, or when I'm saying something is art, I'm saying there's something that distinguishes it from everything else.
That's true.
Like a picture, a photo.
Can you call religion art? Can you call like the ways our society functions art? Not really.
No.
Like,
but I would say a picture is always a picture, and pictures are an art form, but how and why you make that picture is what the part that makes it art. You know what I mean?
I would agree completely with that. Yeah. Maybe we can finally bring this to a close. We're about 2.5 hours in. We're 2.5 hours in.
No way.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say.
17.
I was gonna say like if I take a picture of a receipt to send, so I have fill my expense report at work. Like I took a photo, and I do like to take photos for art, but that photo is not art because my intention was to, get a reimbursement from my job, and my process was that. You know what I mean? There's no like.
But I feel like the story and the like how impactful.
Yeah.
I mean, how much meaning was there? But no, I don't. I agree completely, man. I think it's like when the way you're approaching something is separate from. When you say separate from, you mean like separate from just everything else as a basic like societal standard or whatever. You mean
of what?
As far as like any creation of these things is a.
I think if it's thoughtless, it's not art.
I get that.
That's my main separation.
But you could argue that it is too. Like thoughtless, like Tim and Eric is very thoughtless and bullshit. But
no
it's
way.
Like artistic. To
That's
me.
like the opposite of thoughtless. They go out of their way to make it be something completely.
That's
its
true.
own thing.
That's true.
They go way out of their way too.
So it's mindless, and then something supposedly like making you feel mindless. Those are different. Yeah, I guess those are completely different things.
If I said if I said right now like, oh dude, I'm gonna slap you across the face as hard as you can, and you'd be like, oh my god, this is gonna be so funny, we should film it, and you put a camera on there. There is no artistic dialogue that has happened. You know what I mean? Like nothing in that process was ever like. Our intent is so ambiguous, you know, like maybe we'll post it online to get views, or maybe it'll be hilarious for us to watch back. Like that intent is like, there is no intent, you know what I mean? And our process was just two dudes goofing around. Like that's a thoughtless thing. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, if this was a part of a larger project, if we were like, oh, we're going to make a fake social media account that's going to lead to like, you know, something else, like something of a bigger scope.
We incorporate the actual account into a fictional story. And
exactly. And we do all these things. Like now we have like an intention.
There's
and
a point to it.
And our process is to make it look authentic. Like we're now intentional with like, oh, you should set your camera up there because that's how we would do it if we were just goofing around. You know what I mean?
So it has to have a point. I guess 2.5 hours later. Art has to have a point.
Yeah, art can't just be, you know, nothing. It can't just be like something that just happens. Like it has to be made. That's how I feel.
Yeah. I would say that is what classifies art, and then to me content is like, to me purely like putting something online. Yeah. That's what content is to me, is putting something out there. Because I mean shit, the amount of things that have gone viral or whatever when it's like literally just people like existing or just doing nothing like too
some weird voyeuristic video of like you saw somebody doing like a TikTok trend in their car, so you filmed them from your car and then posted it and being like, yo, look what I saw her do. That's content.
That's a whole other thing. This is gonna be a whole other podcast in itself, but like I have a genuine like paranoia that if I'm doing something weird or socially like faux pas or something bizarre, I'm constantly like wondering if people are like filming me. That's also like because I'm such a self-centered fucking person.
That's hilarious.
But no, I'm always like paranoid that like if I do anything weird or do anything, I wish people were filming more shit, because I've had moments at gigs where I like, you know, was pretty unhinged that I would love to see back. I'd love to see that back, you know. But no, content is just something. It's just something to me. It's not anything meaningful. It is
something that just exists for the sake of existing.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess every single one of us in this
we are content.
We are content. All right. Well, yeah. Hey, thank you so much for talking with me for like 2 hours. Man. Yeah, that was fucking awesome, and I love that we both know movies and stories so well. So obviously we can.
This is a rambling hot mess, and you should edit it. I really feel like you should edit it.
No way, man. No way. This is literally the voyeuristic shit that people want to see. All of that completely untouched.
This is everything. This is content.
This is content.
This is what I hate when podcasts are like this. When it's just like there's no real clear topic. I mean, I guess we kind of circled around.
But it feels like that's how every podcast. That's the nature of podcasts.
That's why I hate podcasts.
They're so pointless. Like
Serial, like, and like, you know, episodes of like This American Life, like back in like the peak podcast days, like they were very hyper focused on their premise.
When they have something to me, podcasts are interesting if they have something very specific that they're, again, intention, or it has to have a reason as to why they're doing it. I'll use the Sunny podcast for example. I love the show It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And it's interesting to see the early episodes of their podcast compared to where they end up, like later in it, because in the beginning it literally is just them like ranting and just talking about different shit. Mm-hmm. And then Megan Gantz being the amazing, wonderful fucking person that she is, producing all this shit. She finally was just like, no, you guys have to like talk about the episode. Like that's what people are like. I'm watching as a diehard fan, wanting to see the people behind that were in one of my favorite shows talk about the show. But it was one of those like the early episodes they would start talking and then immediately like get off topic and go to other things. So
nothing I hate more in a podcast than two dudes just rambling about nonsense.
Pretty much.
And that's exactly what we did for 2 hours and 24 minutes.
Hell the fuck yes. But no, I mean, you never know. It's I mean, to me, all this shit is literally just for like when I'm dead. Like this shit is literally just like
for next year
something. And that's why I want you on here a little more often, because you're bringing the entertainment, man.
Yeah, I bring the realism.
Very fucking funny. Very fun. I really appreciate you, man. I can't wait for us to shoot the next music video soon. Mm-hmm. Check out Doogie's stuff if you can. Can anybody find the Brick House online? What's up with your circus documentary? Is there any way to watch that?
No,
because that's
I don't know what the Brick House is on. I want to say the last time I saw it was on Tubi.
The Brick House?
Yeah, so...
Well, it's stuck in my my DVD player there.
Oh, yeah, did you ever watch it?
No. I will. I'll probably watch it. I'll probably watch it soon.
No, don't watch it.
Do you not... So, maybe we could do that on another episode, I guess, but...
Wait, I'm going to look it up real quick.
Yeah, no, I'm curious. Is the Brick House on it? Just in case it's the one and done, the only podcast we ever do. How do you feel about the way that it... I'm just curious to pick your brain. How do you feel about the?
I love how we tried to end this podcast like 4 times.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I would say, it's on Fubo.
Oh, dude.
Hoopla, Tubi, and Redbox with ads.
Every one of those sounded like a fucking Dr. Seuss character or some shit. Oh, the Fubo? Wait, what is it? It's Fubo?
Fubo, I guess, is a subscription service.
Fubo?
Never even heard of it, bro. Fubo.tv. Where did they get this screenshot?
That's so interesting. Damn, it's cool that it's on something that it's out there, man. It's cool that it's out there.
Fubo is $80 a month, bro. What is this?
Well, is that for like an ad-free, like premium subscription?
100 plus channels of live sports and TV, unlimited cloud DVR.
So that's because you get...
Stream up to 10 screens at once. Oh yeah, I guess it's like a TV subscription, like Sling or something.
Which is actually, if you're paying that much, it's basically a cable. That's not a cable provider price.
But it's on Hoopla for free.
Why don't you sell it? You don't have to, obviously. Did you like how...
I don't want anybody to watch this movie.
Do you not... So you don't... were you not happy with the end result? Like, how do you feel about...
I mean, I would say I don't know that it's a good movie. I just am happy that I was a part of making it, but I don't ever want anybody to ever watch it or talk to me about it.
You made a feature-length movie. See, that in and of itself is still something that I admire. That's something cool. Like, even if it's not, if it's barely watchable, like, that's still cool, man. It's also a cool, like, approach.
It also has a 5.8 on IMDb. I feel like that's really bad.
That's still cool that you made a movie, though, man.
Yeah.
I hope to say the same thing eventually, and I hope that you're on. If you want to be on another one of these, eventually, you let me know, man. This has been awesome. Thank you so much, bro. He's got red on his hands because we were doing a blood test earlier.
I don't even know if you can see it.
You can't even see it. Never mind. I sound like a fucking idiot now. No, but thank you guys. Whoever actually watched all of that, I feel like they should get a medal for watching 2.5 hours of us fucking talking.
Oh wait! I'm gonna read the 8 out of 10 featured review for the Brick House.
Okay, we gotta hear this.
This is it. It says sleeper hit for me. It looks and sounds like a strange concept for a film, but it was kind of genius. Well acted, thoughtful music, and pretty good makeup. I agree with the last reviewer. Why is it no one has heard of this film? I ended up really liking it, and I'd probably watch it again someday. It might not go into my regular rotation of movies that are my classics, but it's good enough to watch some night on a whim for good drama and maybe a laugh or two. The fat pig Curly is clearly a natural for acting. That's gotta be sarcasm, bro. This is all a troll. Kinda reminds me of Seth Rogen back when he was cool. When he was cool meets Jonah Hill when he was in shape. Dude, there's no way this is real.
Oh my god.
I would love to see another film from this story. Hell, start a series of the story. Make it like Yellowstone meets Twin Peaks. That's not a bad idea.
That's actually great.
That's not a bad idea at all, actually.
That's so your movie is content, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Actually, it was art.
That's amazing. That's awesome that it's on.
Wait, hang on. This guy gave it a 9 out of 10. He said,
"Let's see it.
I can't believe only a few people have watched this. It is brilliant in every aspect. Good actors, beautiful story, excellent makeup. I love independent cinema, even though it usually has poor realization, but this film is very well done." I feel like that's definitely sarcasm. These are from 2021 and 2022, by the way. This movie came out in 2014.
It really, damn, 10 years ago?
Yeah.
I thought it was earlier than that. I thought it was like 2012 or 13 or something.
I think, like, official release might actually be 2013, actually, now that I think about it. But
that's really cool. Hey, man, that's...
I feel like it wasn't streaming until 2014. But anyways, all right, end this.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's the thing. All right. Bye.